Let me get this straight. You blew up a building.
2 CIs and the CEO of 22andU.
2 competing federal agencies with the same mission.
I don't understand why those Fed a-holes are so darn mean.
To protect the public from the scourge of dangerous misinformation.
You know those bum idiots. This is all them. We had a solid case.
The word entrapment, not even in their vocabulary.
The explosives we provided were fake.
Sworn to a duty to always tell the truth.
We have no indication at this time that this was a deliberate act.
We're all being transferred.
To where?
The only place currently with openings. Alaska.
Good morning.
Welcome to the office, huh?
And we got the retro feel. You know, the funny about federal buildings, they're all different, but they're still somehow all the same.
Oh, good morning, Agent Walker. At the coffee station. We actually drew straws before he got here, and I won, so we get to work together.
Let's get started. Let's see if we can't stir something up.
Let's give it a minute. I like to warm up the truth muscles a little coffee beforehand.
Well, what do you want to do first?
What do we have for a surveillance van?
Oh, wow. I got a Ford Explorer. We don't have a surveillance van.
Do you put many cases here?
Cases?
Yeah, cases. We're the tip of the spear when it comes to protecting American democracy.
You really believe this? You really believe that people posting crap online is going to cause our country to crumble?
I think the work that we do is important.
We don't have a surveillance van.
Me and some people got one. We've never needed one.
We need a surveillance van. We need a big case or a CI who can lead us to a big case.
What do you need the van for?
Surveillance.
CIs, or confidential informants, are the lifeblood of any good law enforcement agency. Public posts on social media are one of the best ways to find CIs. Agents would never use coercion or take things out of context to try and persuade someone to become a confidential informant.
New Taylor Swift single is absolute fire. I'm just seeing a lot of incendiary and violent language here.
Agents always need to be on their toes and ready to make snap decisions.
Is there anything I can do for you guys? Actually, David, there is something you can do for us.
Chicky nuggies.
Chicky nuggies.
What?
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. McDonald's cheeseburger.
Burger King.
Burger King cheeseburger.
Flame broiled.
And chicken nuggets.
Oh, baby, know you're gonna like it. I wanna be your beaver pilot. Said, honey, know you're gonna like it. I wanna be.
Awesome, right? Is this a loner?
This thing's totally legit.
What is this? It's got windows!
All right, what is up? How is everybody doing? Remember to mute my little echo thing there. I can never remember it until I start talking, and then it's like, oh yeah, stupid echo. How is everybody's Wednesday? Today was a bomb of a day. Oh my good gosh. What a freaking... I don't even have words. So when you watch these shows like Matlock, or you watch Perry Mason, the old Perry Mason shows, and the lawyers, come up with this moment, this big dramatic moment, they usually do it so they can win, like so their side can win. Today we saw something, I guess it's like an anti Perry Mason or Matlock moment. It was always so dramatic. Like, you were actually the one that was caught on videotape. You didn't know there was a videotape in the basement. or, I don't remember the Perry Mason ones because they didn't have videotapes then. But somehow they were always caught, it was you that are the murderer. every time. And I got to see, hopefully I can find the video, because there's video of a couple of points today when Hank is just like, Hank had a tantrum. Hank had a freaking, I don't know what that is. That was not being a lawyer that wants to win their case. It's just not. So yeah. I don't know. All right. So we got this. So let's pop over and check out what's old Smoke and Scan doing, looking at stupidity. Give me a minute while I go. Hang on, let's see. I got that muted.
Which is huge, but you get it right away. I can spend it right away and go buy something right away. Otherwise, I got to wait 30 days to get that $5 you send or something, through PayPal. I'm sorry, through Google.
So he's watching the craziness.
You get paid by
I guess they're getting some. Guess somebody got something in their eye there. Oh, too bad.
Okay.
Oh yeah, just more craziness. So Seattle is a mess. I don't know. Like, Los Angeles is crazy. Seattle is just like it's Antifa hell is what Seattle is. Seattle is just a messed up place. This is the Katie Davis Court. My watch is telling me that it needs charged. Good thing I got a charger right there. So Katie Davis Court is kind of following the developments at the federal building in Seattle. So this is kind of and they don't like Katie because she's a fascist, I guess. These are the people. There's a few of them. Hey. What are you even doing here? What purpose do you serve? So basically they got all these Lime scooters, right? These scooters that you can rent. They like taped them there. They connected them together, and they're blocking all the exits to the federal building. And then eventually, occasionally the DHS police come out and like pull the scooters into the building or take away their stuff or whatever. I mean, it's just stupid. No, but I did see that guy named Jonathan Cho, who is a Seattle independent reporter. Of course, the police chief, the cops don't want to do it. I'm sure the regular police want to do something. The chief of police is not going to let them do anything. So that's kind of where that stands. So I saw it on here. You cannot scroll X with the feed up. You just can't. It's too risky. It's way too risky to show something that you don't want to show and get your whole channel canceled. So he always pops up in my feed, except when I want him to pop up in my feed. And then I don't get him popped up in my feed. I don't understand. So right now it sounds like there is a march of people that are going to be headed to the federal building. Abolish ICE, solidarity with LA. No, what could go wrong here? So just anyway. I don't get it. All right, let's kick this off. I'm sure there'll be plenty more of that shit later. All right, so Andrea's feed does not have chapters. Nobody's really got any good chapters today. That's the thing, is everybody usually has chapters. I don't know if there was something wrong with the chapter thing today, because Emily doesn't have chapters. But so we'll just rock and roll and see what happens. So, all right. Dr. Rentschler is back on the stand today. So let's just get this rolling. Bam. There we go. And we'll just kind of skip through it. Turn on the audio. Get to where they're coming up. All right.
Placeholder slides as we.
All right. Today's just like, holy crap, what the hell am I watching? And we'll get to that. So we're going to go through some.
All right, Mr. Jackson,
some foundation.
Ready, Doctor?
I am, yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, Your
We'll
Honor.
speed it up to 1.5.
Good morning. Yesterday, when we last left off, we were discussing materials that you had been provided to review, and you described much of that material in furtherance of your answer that you were asked to review certain data and undertake certain testing as it relates to the testing that was done by Amateur, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Did you prepare a PowerPoint presentation to illustrate the analysis and methodology in your review and testing of this case?
I did, yes, sir.
Did you bring that with you today?
I did indeed.
Your Honor, I have a flash drive. I'd like to have first slide. Let's start with that.
There we go.
Prepared for presentation for the jurors?
It is, yes, sir.
Okay.
This,
Are there several blank
is,
slides?
this is important because this is the PowerPoint. This is the science that shows he was not hit by a car. And the Commonwealth has a theory of how he was hit. They do. Or they did. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts had a theory as to how John O'Keefe was hit by the car. They did. They had a working theory. They gave Aperture and they gave Jud $400,000. $400,000. They gave Jud and Aperture $400,000 to test their theory. And so this is ARCA going through what they did to basically rebut that. So yesterday they got into the initial theory that they did for the feds that they couldn't testify to. So today they're going to get into what they did second. So let's
as we walk through your analysis.
My investigation in this matter was as it pertains to the alleged theory. My investigation in this matter was to evaluate the evidence, and particularly as it pertains to the alleged theory of what occurred in this case.
All right, so I'm going to strike that answer. Ask the question again.
Sure. Did you?
Hank already. Hank goes back. Hank is epic Hank today. I don't even know.
Seek to undertake from
Right,
Dr.
so-
Judson Welcher.
I was, yes, sir.
Okay, did you have an opportunity to review that PowerPoint presentation in whole?
I did, yes.
Were you able to look at his report and read his report and review his report?
I was, yes, sir.
Did you undertake an analysis based on his reporting and his PowerPoint presentation?
So I'm going to see you both at sidebar for just a minute, please.
We got to have a series of objections and sidebars because you see the defense is rebutting the Commonwealth's case. You see, and we can't have that. We can't have that. Dr. Welcher's analysis very critical to a Commonwealth victory here. So we can't have holes poked in the analysis.
Oh my God! Yeah.
No idea what the problem is
have
here.
holes poked in the. Oh, they poke holes. There's holes.
Today, a little bit of biomechanical analysis. There's
Right,
certain
so-
steps that you have to do to actually perform.
What did you undertake to do?
So I touched on this yesterday a little bit. A biomechanical analysis, there's certain steps that you have to do to actually perform a biomechanical analysis. First of all, you have to determine what the injuries are. What are the diagnosed injuries? Second, you have to determine.
Wolf, Dr. Wolf is cool, right? The doctor the other day, she was a ninja. She was Chuck Norris, right? Lapasato. Dr. Lapasato was a ninja. And then Wolf was a, let's say, Wolf was a, oh, what's a good analogy? I'm thinking maybe like a special forces ranger, cool kind of guy, right? Like he is that, you know, he was good, right? Wolf was good, but he's young, right? And I think he had a little bit of back and forth with Brennan. This guy is Tony Stark. All right. He's a brilliant scientist, and he is amazing on his comeback. Oh my God. This guy's verbal jujitsu is top notch. Like I said, he's Tony Stark level of snark and back and forth. And he does not put up with Brennan very long. When we get to Cross, you're going to be like, oh my God.
And what happened to the individual?
Let's go ahead.
So in this case, what happened to Mr. O'Keefe? His kinematics. How would his body move? Was it contacted by anything? Was it contacted by the Lexus? If so, what forces were produced on the arm, on his body? Were they sufficient to cause the injuries that he sustained? And in this case, it's a little more involved. We have, was he hit by the car? What happened after that? Did he somehow move into the yard? And then did something happen in the yard to actually cause the skull fracture? So in order to determine if that's what actually occurred in this case, you have to look at each of those three separate events. And you have to evaluate that from a biomechanical analysis by looking at the force, looking at the kinematics, looking at human tolerance, and determining or attempting to determine what happened. Now, if you try to determine what happened, not only do you have to prove that that was the case and the facts support that that's what occurred, you also have to eliminate all other possibilities. Because if you're saying this is how it happened, not only do you have to show that that's true.
So the next question, and I'm going to strike
biomechanical analysis.
Strike that.
Biomechanical analysis.
There is absolutely.
Explain that.
Oh, the fix is in.
Let me demonstrate.
All those other
There
doubts.
are several peer-reviewed articles that I reference.
Is this slide number 2?
This is slide number 2. Correct. This is injury reconstruction biomechanical analysis of accidental injury, and that sets forth the methodology that I just described. It's well written about, well reviewed in peer-reviewed articles.
Okay.
It's possible.
Absolutely.
In
fact, let me get through here.
Because the fireworks are in Cross, they really are. So we're gonna rock around here a little bit. Check out some, really wish we had chapters.
Just had a couple examples here.
Come on, Andrew.
This third slide.
Actually, let me refresh real quick. Maybe
This is the method you need to do, the steps you need to go through in order to provide.
no chapters, but at least she's got a transcript. So at least we got something. At least I got something to do. All right, we got a transcript. I'll stick with just
an actual opinion.
And describe that method just a little bit further. Does that?
It was really established back in the 16. It's all based on the scientific method. Okay, and the scientific method. It was really established back in the 1620s. But this tells you how to do a proper scientific analysis. So you have an observation, you observe something.
All right, we're going to do that. We're going to do the scientific method a lot. We know what scientific method is.
I would like to explain an example of what's important with that. So I was going to say I have 3 kids, a 9-year-old who's actually turning 10 today. Happy birthday! On the facts and the evidence.
Why is that?
Because that's what.
All right, so he gets in trouble for this. He gets yelled at for telling his son happy birthday because he knows his son is watching. All right.
I have 3 kids, a 9-year-old who's actually turning 10 today. Happy birthday, Kai. And I have 2 older ones.
All right.
Happy birthday, Kai.
We're going to stop this. Another example.
Go ahead.
Minus all the personal.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Minus all the personal.
Details matter.
Oh my God. Bev. Oh my God. I can't. There's no way I can't have you do. Oh no. You said happy birthday, Kai. Oh my God. How could you? How could you say happy birthday, Kai?
Okay. Details in an investigation matter, and details matter here. You need details. You have to explain how things happen. Okay. You, as an expert, I can't come in and just say.
Sustained. It needs to be more question and answer.
Why do details matter?
Because your opinions have to be based on the facts and the evidence.
Why is that?
Because that's what determines your conclusions. I can't come in and say, I think.
Next question.
What if you don't have all the details and facts?
If you don't have details, if you haven't performed a project, you have to demonstrate what you think happened is A, possible, and B, actually did occur. And in order to do that, you need hard evidence to demonstrate that.
He crushes him. He just freaking crushes
That's
him.
what was demonstrated.
So now we're going to get into the PowerPoint. So let's go ahead and look at Aperture's stuff.
Sustained.
What do you see? By the way, where are these from? These two slides.
These two slides are from the PowerPoint presentation that Aperture provided.
All right, so you didn't create these?
I did not, no, sir.
Describe the angle of the arm in the left photograph with the drinking glass in the hand.
So the angle of that arm is approximately 90 degrees. The other photographs in the PowerPoint demonstrate that for someone the same height as Mr. O'Keefe, the arm would be about 90 degrees with an individual standing erect. That's what was demonstrated in their PowerPoint.
Do you note anything?
He said erect.
In their PowerPoint, the Aperture PowerPoint, related to the clothing worn in that left photograph?
Yes, they have the surrogates wearing a hoodie or a sweatshirt, which is the exact same type and brand that Mr. O'Keefe was found wearing at the time of the incident.
Did that play a part in your overall analysis? The fact that the individual, the surrogate, as you use the name,
the cosplay, is that scientific?
The same type of sweatshirt that was found on Mr. O'Keefe?
It did, yes. I mean, that's one of the details that we have to look at. Details matter, so we look at the clothing that was worn and the evidence found with respect to that actual sweatshirt.
I'd like to stay with that for a second. Why is that important? Why would the clothing matter?
Well, Mr. O'Keefe was wearing the sweatshirt when the time of this alleged incident occurred. So if there is contact between his sweatshirt and that rear vehicle, the taillight from the Lexus, there would likely be evidence of that. And we have to look at that sweatshirt to see the condition of that sweatshirt, if there's evidence on that sweatshirt, and be able to pair that or match that up to what happened on the vehicle.
Is that part of a normal biomechanical analysis?
Clues about what may have occurred during the incident.
Skip ahead a little bit. So basically, he's going through.
Photograph. What is the the short video?
So this short video is what I refer to as the pain transfer test that was performed by Aperture. So the way I interpreted this is the one test that was performed with respect to the taillight. This is the only test I saw that Aperture performed involving the taillight.
This is the only test at $400,000, $400K to Aperture. This is the only test they could find that Aperture performed. Oh my God. And just wait, just, I can't wait to get the cross. Oh, I got
the arm is that with this paint transfer test, they concluded that, again, the area where the paint was transferred onto the arm is consistent, the same shape and orientation as apparently the lacerations found on Mr. O'Keefe's forearm.
Did this test, in your opinion, establish force multipliers that were exerted on the taillight?
It has nothing to do with force. It doesn't describe the force exerted on the taillight or on the arm. It doesn't describe how the arm would have moved as it hit the taillight. It doesn't describe how the taillight would fracture. It doesn't describe how you would actually get the lacerations on the arm. Again, all this does is generally, and I made an error there. This report, and you can see the slide says laceration. Mr. O'Keefe did not have lacerations on his arm.
What did he have?
He was diagnosed with superficial abrasions.
Is there a difference between a laceration and an abrasion?
There's a distinct difference, but
Oh, now there's superficial abrasions, not lacerations. In your experts' report, huh?
Biomechanically and medically, yes.
Is that an important distinction?
That is. The first step of the biomechanical analysis is identify the injuries, and you have to take the diagnosed injuries identified by medical doctors.
So I strike the end of that.
Would you
abrasions to put lacerations on? That's simply incorrect.
So I strike the end of that.
Yes.
What's that other way?
So they've been diagnosed as superficial abrasions. An abrasion occurs when there's rubbing or scraping of the skin, and it just rubs away the top layer.
Back to it here. Oh, what? We have x-rays? No, we don't. Not x-rays. No way.
X-ray of Mr. O'Keefe's right hand taken January 31st, I believe.
Did you review this in furtherance of your analysis?
I did, yes, sir.
Was it part of the medical record? Medical records or age records?
It was a series of the X-rays. Yes, was attached. It was part of the medical records that were provided to me and that I reviewed in this matter.
Thank you. Just for the record, so I can clarify, this is Exhibit 229A, as an apple. Do you see? And have you looked at X-rays before?
I have, yes.
Have you interpreted X-rays in furtherance of your analyses in years past?
I have during my biomechanical analysis. Yes.
Are you trained to look at X-rays and determine whether there are fractures, hairline fractures, broken bones, things of that nature?
I've been doing this for 20 years. In graduate school, I worked with surgeons and doctors to look at X-rays.
Is that part of the normal methodology that biomechanists undertake in furtherance of injury analysis?
It is part of what we normally do.
Would it be an important part of a biomechanist's ultimate analysis and conclusions as it relates to an injury analysis?
It would be, and especially in this case, if we're talking about impact to the arm and the hand, very important to determine, as I said, not only what the actual injuries are, but what injuries did not occur. Indication or any signs of trauma or injury to the forearm or to the wrist in this case.
If we could go to 229C as in Charlie. What are we looking at in this photograph?
This is the right humerus, the right upper bone of Mr. O'Keefe's right arm.
Or X-rays.
Did you note this in furtherance of your analysis?
And his shoulder.
Did you note any defects, trauma, injuries at all with regard to the? I'm sorry, the bone is the
humerus.
The humerus.
I did not know, sir.
What about the joints associated with the humerus, top or bottom?
I did not note any injuries or damage to either the elbow.
No injuries.
What is your opinion and conclusion, having reviewed all three of these X-rays?
Go ahead and go forward a little bit.
Either the elbow.
Right arm, starting from the arm, forearm, and
Mr. O'Keefe's right arm, either his hand, his forearm, or his.
Can we go to the next slide, please?
Maybe. See if I can start backing on here. Okay, there we go.
What are we looking at in this slide?
So again, this is the hoodie or sweatshirt that Mr. O'Keefe had on at the time of this
Oh,
alleged incident.
Did you consider these photographs in conducting your injury causation analysis?
I did, yes, sir.
What role did these photographs of Mr. O'Keefe's hoodie play in your injury causation analysis?
On the right sleeve by the triangles, there were 9 different punctures or holes noted in the sleeve of the sweatshirt.
Can we go to the next slide, please? What are we looking at in these series of photos?
So, can you just slide back for a minute and Mr. Jackson, bring your PowerPoint, please?
Interjecting. Bring your PowerPoint. Oh, it's normal and expected and commonplace for biomechanical engineers to look at the clothing and the damage to the clothing and to see if they correspond to the.
All right. Keep going here.
12.
Number 12, thank you.
I did, yes, sir.
Can we move to slide 13, please? Coming to your ultimate conclusion.
I did, yes.
Can we move to slide 14, please?
I did.
What are we looking at in slide 18?
So this is Mr. O'Keefe's right arm at autopsy, and they're holding up a ruler to demonstrate itself. There was no indication of where that blue paint extended.
Let's go back. He's gonna knock off the.
Test. This is.
What are we looking at?
I'd like
in
to
this slide?
see the slide, guy.
Again, this is the paint test. This is the only test that was conducted by Aperture to
Oh,
look at the
again.
tail light and the arm in this case.
Again, he says the only test that Aperture does, $400,000. This is the only test.
And the interaction between the two.
Did you note whether
Big. So some of you guys know what happened. Probably everybody knows what happens at the end, but I can't. I'm not going to spoil it. We're going to act like it's we don't know because I don't think Kat knows. Kat doesn't know yet. So we got a surprise at the end about old Aperture.
whether in all of Aperture's data that you reviewed, whether or not there was any measurements to determine whether the abrasions were consistent with contact with Alexis?
I did. There were no measurements at all taken with respect to that test. No measurements with respect to where the contact happened on the car or on the arm itself. There was no indication of where that blue paint extended on the surrogate's arm, say from the wrist up to where the laceration or the abrasions would have occurred.
Is that important?
It's very important.
Why?
Because you can't say that the area where the blue paint is corresponds to the area of the abrasions if you don't take measurements. If you just eyeball it, all you can say is by eyeballing it, it looks approximately the same. But that's not scientific. You can't come to an actual conclusion that where that paint covers the arm is where those abrasions actually were. They could lie outside, they could lie forward, they could lie above that painted area. You can't say with any scientific certainty that that area of paint corresponds to where the abrasions are.
I got run into the car by science.
In this motion video and still photographed to the left in slide 20.
Oh my God, this is not science.
We are, yes, sir.
What did you note with regard to the positioning?
Approximately 90 degrees, level in line with.
You seek to do any testing approximating the positioning of the arm as you saw it, as you interpreted it in the Aperture data?
I did, yes, sir.
All right, so now we're going to get into their testing a little bit. Let's see.
Well, if we want to determine whether the orientation, you have your arm at a right angle, and the vehicle comes and pushes and slides against it on that forearm, you would expect those abrasions to be horizontal, to be in line with that forearm.
Are they?
They're not. You can see some of them are vertical, some of them are angled, some of them it's hard to tell what the directionality is. But if your arm, again, is being struck and pushed this way, as it's pushed and as the car goes by, if this would occur in this manner, you would expect those abrasions to be horizontal in the direction that the vehicle is actually traveling.
Yep, you remember that.
Huh.
Do you mean horizontal?
I'll say so.
This is yet again the same video that we saw earlier?
That is correct. This is the paint test video, yes.
And what has to happen in order for the paint in this test to reach the upper forearm?
Well, in this case, to reach the upper forearm, there has to be contact between the forearm and the taillight cover.
Can we go to the next slide, please? What is this slide showing?
Again, this shows, you can see on the right, I added arrows to kind of show the directionality of the different abrasions. And on the forearm, they simply do not line up with the type of kinematics or the type of motion shown in the paint test. Again,
So last trial, these guys, ARCO, were not allowed to do this. After Jud did his Chud thing, and Man Shannon did his thing. That's all. I mean, that's all blown out. Like Man Shannon, Jud, that's all in the past, man. This is the last thing the jury's seeing. So, holy crap, they are blowing Jud out of the water. They're just crushing Jud. And like I said, last time they weren't allowed to do this. So
of the arm getting pushed out of the way and the car traveling.
And when Brennan brought them in for that wide ear, and like yelled at Wolf, and he pissed them off. Oh my God, he pissed them off. Right. And like I said, Wolf was cool. Wolf kept his cool and just answered the questions. Oh man.
There were going to be abrasions from the fractured glass as it moves along. Again, it would be lengthwise parallel to the forearm.
If the arm was positioned as it was indicated in the paint test done by Aperture, would you expect to see this pattern of injuries on Mr. O'Keefe's arm?
Would not. An angled, and it demonstrates there were no measurements taken, so we don't know the exact size or location of that paint or the lacerations. And you can see the photograph on the right basically shows that after doing the test, a picture of the right arm was put next to it and basically eyeballed to say it's the same. Well, it's only approximately the same area.
So I'm going to strike that. So
nothing, no types of measurements whatsoever.
Can we?
No measurements. We didn't do actually anything.
Can't have him saying Welcher is wrong.
That's correct.
So let's go for a little bit more.
Mr. O'Keefe's arm being damaged by the tail at speed.
I did.
Okay, what is that conclusion?
That does not represent that at all. The evidence from that test, again, is it's only puts pain on the arm. So in no way does that determine or demonstrate how, if the arm struck the taillight cover, how the taillight cover could shatter, how the movement of the arm could interact with the cover to produce those abrasions.
Did you go? I'm sorry.
So keep in mind that Brennan fought and got special permission to have Super Jud, come back and testify and rebut ARCA. He fought for that and was granted the right for Jud to do additional testing and come back and testify on rebuttal to rebut ARCA. Mm-hmm. He did. He fought really, really hard for it.
There's just no evidence of that. There's no steps taken to demonstrate how, if that's even possible, would that actually occur in a case like that. First, you have to show it's possible. I saw no peer-reviewed articles, no research data, and the only test that was done that links the injuries to the taillight cover is this paint test.
Is that the paint test in which the arm was leaned into the car?
In which the elbow was shot forward, and then the arm and upper arm was leaned into and against the cover.
Did you also go on to further your injury causation analysis by performing impact tests to evaluate the kinematics involved?
I did, yes. Absolutely, yes.
What about the bones in the hand?
Now they get into the
stronger or the same resistance.
Now they get into the testing that ARCA did. So here's the ARCA test again.
Acceleration here is almost at 17 miles an hour.
Where Wolf was doing the testing was looking at the damage. Rentschler is looking at the damage to the body. Wolf was looking at the damage to the taillight, right? And what damage the taillight would happen. Rentschler is actually looking at the biomechanics of this wreck, or supposed wreck, and could it even be possible? And you know, what kind of forces are we talking about? And then if so, what you expect to see when your arm is hit by a car traveling 20 some miles an hour.
What was the acceleration that was noted on the arm?
So when you look at the arm, its acceleration here is almost 300 Gs.
What does that mean to us?
So 300 Gs. If you look at weight, if you say the weight of the arm is 10 pounds, 300 Gs means there's 3,000 pounds of force acting on that arm.
Is that enough to break a bone?
It's more than enough to break a bone.
Is that enough to to tear ligaments?
Absolutely, yes.
What about the bones in the hand?
So 147.31. I got to go back. I just remembered something too. Let me write this down. I'm going to. So, side note, real quick. This right here is my little notebook, and it sits on my desk. Sometimes I got it with me, but it's a journal. And my grandmother, rest her soul, was a journal keeper. Like she diaried every single day. And I have a few of those diaries, just like one from actually when my mom was a baby, and then one from later on in the 90s. I think I've got a dream diary, but she had an empty one, and she was a photographer and a poet and all kinds of stuff. And so I found an empty diary of hers. And so I don't diary. Now, I'm not going to say I write down everything, but I do use this as my, for my notes and stuff. So I've used it for like doing notes for the show, and I use it while I'm editing. So just a little side thing there. All right, so I want to go back because they talked about why you would use the hybrid 3. Oh, okay, so it's coming up. It's coming up right here, actually. Let's see. Where was I? I'm at 147. Okay, so we missed it here. Let's see. Okay.
And is do testing to look at how the arm would actually move and whether it's possible to create those conditions to actually get that.
Here we go.
Did you use an ATD hybrid 3 arm for testing?
We did, yes. We used a 50th percentile male ATD hybrid 3 arm.
Is the use of that hybrid 3 arm accepted in your industry in terms of testing?
Yes, it certainly is. As I said yesterday, it's the gold standard for testing. And the arm itself is used just for that very purpose. In fact, there's a number of studies. They use the 50th percentile arm to look at airbag deployment. One of the issues with airbags for the driver is it comes out of the hub of the steering wheel. So if you're steering and you're turning your car and you hit something and the airbag goes off, what happens? It blows right into your forearm. And it can actually cause fractures. We see that quite often. So they perform testing with the 50th percentile arm to look at the forces and acceleration on the arm as airbags go off. Very simple.
Thank you. What's depicted here?
So this was testing.
So, yeah. So, and yesterday they really got into it where they said the 50% tile arm is what they use for NHL testing and what Jud used in his testing. So, all right. So let's go back to this.
If you say the weight of the arm is 10 pounds, 300 Gs means there's 3,000 pounds of force acting on that arm.
Is that enough to break a bone?
It's more than enough to break a bone.
Is that enough to to tear ligaments?
Absolutely, yes.
What about the bones in the hand? Are those stronger, the same resistance as the bones in the forearm? Or are they more delicate?
No, the bones in the hand are, as you can imagine, much weaker because they're much smaller. When you look at the carpal bones, the metacarpal interphalangeal joint, which is basically your knuckles, they are much smaller and it takes much less force to fracture.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, your hand it's made up of tiny, tiny little bones. So it's yeah.
Your hand bones compared to your ulnar radius.
Let's go to the next slide, please. What are we looking at in this slide?
So this is a 24-mile-an-hour impact with the arm of the dummy contacting the rear, again, tail light. And it shows you the motion, the dummy suspended, shows you the motion of the dummy and, again, the force and acceleration. Now, that right video I put in because that's real-time video. We've been showing the low speed, but look on the right. This is the actual speed at 24 miles an hour. That's what it looks like.
I mean, look at that. Look at 24 miles per hour. Look at the real speed video right there.
We've been showing the low speed, but look on the right. This is the actual speed at 24 miles an hour. That's what it looks like if you have your hand out and it's struck by an SUV.
Is the arm accelerated do the same physics apply? Is the arm accelerated up to the speed of the car?
That's ridiculous.
It is, yes. It's all about weight, right? Because you have a 6,000-pound car and you have a 10-pound arm. It's whatever speed that car is going, your arm, your hand, whatever's sticking out there is immediately going to get accelerated up to the speed of that vehicle.
The video on the right is in real time. Like you said, it's sped up in milliseconds. Is that right?
That's correct.
I hope the people on the jury can really appreciate this because the speed that this is happening, Brennan talks about, well, couldn't the arm be dragged and couldn't he's got contact and then the arm gets dragged and it happens faster than you can blink. And they're going to get to that in a second.
The hybrid 3 that's used in this test, is that suspended from above? The dummy can swing.
Your umbilicus or your belly button. So in order to move the body forward or backward, if you take a step possibly, but the center of mass.
All right, let's see. Where is the bullet? Oh, I think I gotta go back. Damn it.
Arm is accelerated. The hand's accelerated up to the speed of the vehicle in about 2 to 4 milliseconds.
How long does it take to blink your eye?
250 milliseconds. It takes a quarter of a second to blink your eye. So this occurs if your hand's hit at 15 miles an hour by a car, it's going to be accelerated up to the speed of the car about 50 times faster than you can blink.
Can we go to the next slide, please?
Your arm is going to be accelerated up to the speed of the car 50 times faster than you can blink. And the Commonwealth wants people to believe that the arm shattered a taillight. The taillight pieces went into the arm. And the taillight pieces somehow, after being broken, went faster than the car and the arm. It's just not physically possible. He's absolutely right. So, all right. So,
to fracture, but think of the elbow joint and think of the shoulder joint. It takes much less force to dislocate an elbow than it does to actually fracture it.
Did you see any evidence based on your review of the medical records, including your review of the X-ray material, going relative to the
It's going forward.
And where's the arm?
The arm has been pushed away. Now, you have to remember, as that arm, if it contacts and fractures the taillight, it's not exposed to the fractured pieces that still exist on the taillight itself, because those pieces that fracture haven't gone anywhere because they're against the arm itself. And then as the arm moves away, the pieces then move with the vehicle.
Are the taillight pieces upon fracture moving at the same speed as the arm upon contact?
That's correct, yes.
Is that a matter of physics?
That is a matter of physics, yes.
Is there any possible way for the broken pieces of taillight to out-accelerate the arm upon contact when the arm's being deflected away from the vehicle?
It is not. I don't believe it's physically possible. That was not demonstrated in our testing, and I've never seen that demonstrated in any peer-reviewed articles. Now, you can see here again also the light and the fragments being propelled forward. So you also have to consider where Mr. O'Keefe was found. He was found in the yard about 10 or 20 feet from the road. Yep. There was no exact measurements. But if you look at the motion of the taillight, it's going forward. Now, if Mr. O'Keefe has to move diagonally to the top left of that corner, and if he's not hit with the center of mass, he can't get to where he ends up before the taillight fragments have already gone forward and been deposited on the ground. Average running speed is like 4 to 6 miles an hour. Even if this SUV is going 10 miles an hour, it shatters, the lights fracture, they're dispersed on the ground, and then Mr. O'Keefe somehow ends up to his point of rest. But you wouldn't find the fragments on him because they've already been pushed forward, come to rest, before he even has a chance to get to where they find him.
Really hope the jury is taking this in.
Let's go to the next slide, please. Rather than just photograph.
It was examined and photographed, yes, sir.
Was there any defect in that right sleeve at all?
No defects at all were noted in that sleeve. No.
Next slide, please. What are we seeing here?
This shows some of the photographs taken of the sleeve and the arm to show that there's no defects whatsoever. And it shows the damage to the Lexus. And again, at 24 miles an hour, not only do you get damage to the move, any substantial difference, right, it has to be hit at the center of mass. Pedestrian impact.
Sorry.
And you want to see where the pedestrian ends up. You have to evaluate how they were impacted by the car.
There was no damage to the sweatshirt.
In order to have the pedestrian move any substantial difference, it has to be hit at the center of mass. Lexus. So if you had a center of mass hit, you would have damage to the liftgate, to the fender, to the sheet metal. You would have substantially more damage than what we had in this case. And secondly, which I believe is just as important, it shows the post-impact trajectory of the dummy. So again, if you're struck on the corner by the Lexus,
is this showing?
So this shows the forces produced during the test as well as the forces produced during our testing. So if he's going to be impacted at that speed, especially center of mass, there's likely going to be injuries to his leg, to his knee. The bumper lines up with the knee. That's one of the most common.
From this point forward, Rentschler,
let's get this.
Can we move to slide?
Yep, we knew.
Yeah, just a moment.
With respect to automobile pedestrian impact, that indicates the head's the most commonly injured body.
Lies in all of its testing?
It was, yes.
Okay.
And
okay, so now we get into the
Dr. Welcher scaled the acceleration results based on the weight, which is what I was talking about yesterday. You scale the results from the 50th percentile. That's exactly what Dr. Welcher did.
Really?
To adjust for the size of an ATD?
It absolutely is, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
So this test, what he did, he took a 50th percentile dummy, stood it up, and then let it drop backwards.
I'll be right back
on a concrete surface.
Watch this for a second.
Right back. Next slide, please.
Not on frozen grass. He didn't test it on frozen grass.
Did the last slide include a video?
I believe it did, yes.
On frozen grass.
I'm not sure it's on this slide. No, that's just a screenshot.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to that slide for just a second. I thought this might be the video of it.
No.
So in the lower portion of the center of the screen, you see Dr. Welcher holding the ATD. Is that correct?
See him holding it
Did you review a video of what happened next? This is not the video, but did you review the video?
I did, yes.
Describe for the jurors, since we don't have access to video. What did you see happen from this point forward?
So Dr. Welcher releases the dummy, and the dummy just falls rigidly backwards, almost like a tree, and impacts the concrete.
Can we jump from your PowerPoint to a video that I have and ask you if you recognize it with court permission?
Is the video in evidence?
It's in Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint.
Is it before the jury? Is it in?
It is.
Okay.
Okay. Do you recognize this?
I do, yes.
Is this just looks like the same screen, basically the same thing that you just took a screenshot of?
It is, yes, sir.
Okay. If we could play the first couple of seconds of the video and pause it As that video began to play, did you recognize this as being the same video that you reviewed earlier?
It is, yes, sir.
And did you utilize this in coming to your opinions?
I did, yes.
And conclusions in this case?
I did, yes.
Thank you. Let's go ahead with the court's permission. Can we play the videos? Thank you.
As Andrea pointed out, concrete. They dropped the dummy on concrete.
What did you see? Describe what you saw in this video.
So this is a passive rearward fall of the ATD dummy. So just releasing and let it fall. Obviously, it's a dummy. There's no musculature. There's no response to that dummy. So this is what would happen if a rigid individual just fell backwards onto a concrete surface.
Concrete.
Can we see it one more time, please? I want to ask you one other question.
In the case, okay, whether there was an accident or not, and you're not going to let this guy.
Based on the testing that was performed, the evidence available in this case, and the kinematics of how somebody would move post-impact after being struck by an SUV.
Do you hold that opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
I do, yes.
Can we go to the next slide, please? May I have just a moment, Your Honor? Yes. Finally, Dr. Rentschler, do you have an opinion, or did you reach a conclusion whether the biomechanical evidence in this matter is consistent or inconsistent with Mr. O'Keefe's right arm being impacted by the subject 2021 Lexus 570, resulting in a backward fall leading to the head injuries that he suffered?
I did, yes.
And what is that opinion?
My opinion is that the evidence is inconsistent with Mr. O'Keefe being struck on the right arm by the SUV and then moving laterally into the yard and falling backward onto.
And do you hold that opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
I do, yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. So now we'll take our break, folks. We'll see you in about 20 minutes.
Oh boy. All right. So you think, okay, that's pretty bad. Maybe Brennan could come in. He gets his cross-examination now. Maybe he can come in and save the Commonwealth's case. No. This is not what happens. He goes, there is no good morning. There is no good afternoon. There is no niceties at all.
Let's see what kind of energy.
All right. So just from the get-go, he's in attack mode. Attack. And then the first he's going to go through all of his little attacks about he's going to do this facts matter thing. When Brennan gets this all through this trial, we've seen him on cross-examination bring up all this other stuff. Like, well, what about his hat being found there? What about his shoe being found there? What about the drinking glass in the straw? And nobody's been in a position to really push back on that. Russell was, and then Lapisato pushed back on some of that. Oh my God, just wait till Rentschler gets in there. Holy crap.
Dr. Rentschler, facts matter, don't they?
They do, yes, sir.
You've said it many, many times. Facts matter. Isn't that correct?
I think it was details, but facts matter too.
Do details matter, doctor?
They do.
They're critical, aren't they?
If you want to prove that something happened a certain way, they're critical, yes, sir.
When you were talking to the jury and giving opinions about where Mr. O'Keefe might have fell or not fell, you were discussing where Mr. O'Keefe was lying on the side of the yard, weren't you?
Where he came to rest?
Came to rest.
Well, approximately. We don't know the exact position, but yes.
You said 10 to 20 feet, didn't you?
I believe so, yes.
You said that 3 times, 10 to 20 feet. Do you think Mr. O'Keefe was 20 feet from the roadway?
Well, I think he's maybe 10 feet, but 20 feet is from, if you're hit by the car, you need some distance to travel. He couldn't travel just horizontally, or perpendicularly. So it would be at least 10 to 20 feet if you look at the total distance.
You have no idea where the point of impact was in this collision, do you?
Nobody does.
I'm asking you, not nobody.
Yep,
Excuse me.
So go ahead and ask the question.
Dr. Rentschler, before this jury, have no idea where the point of impact
There was no collision.
do you?
That's correct.
See how mad he is? He's so mad. He is like mad. He realized that Jud just got crushed. Jud just got annihilated. He fought to keep this evidence out. There's a point back in there where he is angry again. He's arguing to the judge to disallow Arca from testifying because they didn't turn over their texts or they didn't communicate, right? And he is arguing, saying, oh, they did all these experiments and everything. He was mad about that. And this is why, because the testimony was even more damaging than he thought it was. Oh my God, he's angry.
Play exhibit 2, please. When you were giving your estimate 10 to 20 feet, Dr. Rentschler, did you ever see this photograph before, or part of this video?
I'm sure I have.
When you say you're sure you have, are you guessing, or have you seen it or not seen it?
I'm sure I've seen this before, yes.
So you've seen this before?
Yes.
And when you look at this video, did you look at the street and look at the area where Mr. O'Keefe was?
Sure, yes.
Sure?
Yes.
20 feet, Dr. Rentschler?
The way I explained it to you, yes, sir. 10 to 20 feet.
Details matter, don't they?
They certainly do, yes, sir.
Take that down, please. Did you speak to anybody today, before you testified, about Dr. Welcher's testimony?
Knew this was coming.
I did not today, no, sir.
Before today, did you speak to anybody about Dr. Welcher's testimony?
I did not, no, sir.
At any point, did anybody discuss certain issues with you today that they said would be particularly important?
I don't believe so, no, sir.
When you began your testimony yesterday, before you even finished your credentials, you began talking about your work with the NHL and how important it was to use a 50%.
So Brennan this is lying. And Rentschler, I wish he would have said something because he was asked about that. If we go back to yesterday, he was asked about this by AJ about the 50% dummy. He didn't bring this up on his own. Brennan right here is insinuating that Rentschler brought up the 50% hybrid dummy on his own.
Hybrid 3 dummy. Do you remember that testimony?
I did, yes, sir.
And you hadn't even finished your credentials yet. Was it brought to your attention that there was an issue in the testing because you or Dr. Wolf or you and Dr. Wolf chose to use a 50% dummy?
Not at all, no, sir.
In your preparation for your testimony, was it discussed at all that at the beginning you should get ahead of the issue and talk about the 50% dummy?
I didn't know it was an issue, no, sir.
Well, you know the 50% dummy represents somebody who's 5'9", correct?
Approximately, yes, sir.
Approximately 173 pounds.
171, 172, somewhere around there.
And Mr. O'Keefe, how much did he weigh?
216, I believe.
How tall was he?
He was 73 inches, I believe.
So that is not a representative height and weight for Mr. O'Keefe, is it?
That height and weight, no, sir.
And so if you were making projections or analysis based on limb weights, they would be inaccurate if you didn't make adjustments, correct?
Well, they would certainly, the force on the limb would be less if you use a lighter limb. So if Mr. O'Keefe is heavier than the hybrid 3, and I use a hybrid 3, the forces I calculate would be an underestimate of the actual force acting on his body.
If you didn't make an adjustment, but you relied on the numbers from the test rate, the hybrid 3 dummy, ultimately the conclusions would be off, wouldn't they?
They would be an underestimate. Yes, the actual forces would be higher.
And so did you make any conclusions? Or did
Told you he was set up. I told you they set him up on
you
this.
know that when Dr. Wolf did his tests using the hybrid 3 dummy, he didn't make any adjustments?
What do you mean? What adjustments would he make? You get the acceleration, but the acceleration's not going to change, and that's what we utilize. Then you can scale the weight of the body, but I'm not sure what he would have made adjustments for.
When you looked at the ratio of force and mass, if you use a lighter weight, the mass changes, doesn't it?
If you use a light, sure, yes.
And that changes the force equation, doesn't it?
That can, yes.
And so when you were discussing yesterday at the beginning of your testimony about the 50% dummy, had that issue been raised with you?
No, sir, it had not.
You had testified before, hadn't you?
All right. So we gotta go back. We gotta go look. I will remember to share. I'll beat myself on the head. I will remember to share. I want to go back and look because he is insinuating that Dr. Rentschler brought that up on his own, right? And maybe he did. If he did, then maybe there's something to it. But I don't believe he did. Oh, wait. Oh, and we got... Wait a minute. Do we actually have...
If you use a light, sure, yes.
And that changes...
Yay, we have chapters now. Okay, good. Because I was seeing this here, and I'm like, we got chapters. Okay, give me a second. Andrea Burkhart, and share this tab instead. Okay. And let's go back to yesterday. And let's bring up the transcript. Okay. We just prove this right now. That he was actually asked a question about this and did not bring this up on his own. So let's see. Let's go to NHL. Oh God, every time. Okay, so why is it 60? Gosh darn it. Oh, it was okay, never mind. Hang on. That's right. He didn't start until late, huh?
that caused the NHL to take a look at it, the hit of Chara on Pacioretty. He sustained a concussion and a cervical fracture. So they gave us part of the rink to the Winter Classic, the outdoor contest, and we used crash test dummies, hybrid 3 50th percentile male dummies, and threw them into different configurations of glass. And ultimately, the new design that we developed is a curved piece of spring-loaded Lexan.
So he did bring it up first. He did say that they used a hybrid 350 percentile dummy. So, okay.
Plexiglass. So now when
and it wasn't AJ that asked about it. So I was wrong. Okay.
You used the 50%
of player interaction.
He did. AJ did come back and ask him a question about it.
They do, yes.
You said you used the 50 percentile hybrid 3 as a crash test dummy, an ATD, to do your work in furtherance of the NHL Contractor Commission, correct?
That's correct.
Did you need to use a hybrid 3 that was the same size as these big, tall, 6'4", 230-pound hockey players?
No, not at all.
Why not?
There's a 95th percentile male dummy, which not many people have or use.
So, okay. Interesting. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe Brennan was onto something and he didn't get it because he didn't admit to it. So, okay. Keep going. Oh, come on, play.
Force equation, doesn't it?
That can, yes.
And so when you were discussing yesterday at the beginning of your testimony about the 50% dummy, had that issue been raised with you?
No, sir, it had not.
You had testified before, hadn't you?
In this case?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And you knew there was a sequestration order?
Prior?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't discuss the case with anyone, no, sir.
Well, you didn't discuss it with anybody, you said?
I did not know.
Before you testified last year, you were receiving information from your employer about issues and testimony in the case.
Now he's going to get into the
party that
FBI
told us things. I didn't break any sequestration. They were the ones in contact with the court. So it was my assumption that whatever they were telling me was allowed by the court. They were the client. I didn't discuss anything with them or tell them anything, but yes, they told us certain things.
Before you testified under oath last year, you were getting updates from your employer about details of this case, weren't you? Session order. Every question.
Maybe we can approach briefly.
Every time Jackson or somebody from the defense asks for a sidebar, there has to be a comment from Bev. Briefly, when Hank asked for it, there is no comment whatsoever. It's so
Briefly
ridiculous.
now. Briefly when the defense has concerns. He's perplexed. What would he make? He's just trying to get the acceleration, and that's not going to change.
Okay, so
Before you testified last year.
now we're going to talk about
information, not from the defense, from your employer, about other witnesses' testimony during the event, weren't you?
I don't know if they told us about witness testimony. They told us about certain evidence. I had no contact with the court, with the prosecution, with the defense. I had no idea what was going on. We were retained by a certain organization, and they contacted the court. They were in talks with the court about, I guess, what we could or couldn't do. Anything I got was from that organization.
Why this unusual scenario, Dr. Rentschler? Well, because it was the FBI.
Did you testify under oath that they did inform me, yes, about testimony and situations and events that came forth in the event that I was not aware of?
I don't know. They told us about evidence. I don't know if it was specific to who testified to what, but they told us certain things, certainly, yes.
What I just said to you, are those your words, sir?
I have no idea. I had a difference to my analysis or conclusions.
Made no difference at all?
It did not, no, sir.
Would you agree it helped you understand what was going on during the trial?
I don't think it made a difference at all. No, it doesn't change the facts that I evaluated or the analysis I conducted or the conclusions I came to.
And so as you sit here today, you are denying that information certainly helped you prepare.
How did it help me prepare? It didn't change the opinions I offered. It didn't change what was in my report or what I'm opining to or testifying to today. It hasn't changed anything I've ever testified to.
I'm going to ask you a very specific question. I want you to give me a very specific objection.
So just go ahead and ask the question.
Are you denying that receiving that information certainly
God,
helped?
he's such a dick.
I don't. Honestly, I can't remember. It didn't change my opinion.
No, just go ahead and deny it.
I don't see how it
You
would
can
help me
just deny
prepare.
it.
I remember there was evidence about trace DNA found that we didn't know before. That didn't change my opinion then. It doesn't change my opinion now. It doesn't have anything to do with my opinion.
Details matter, right, sir?
Details can matter.
Details matter. So let's talk about detail.
Sure.
Are you denying that receiving that information certainly helped you prepare? You denying it?
Yeah, go ahead and just deny it.
I don't think that it did. It's been a year, but certainly it didn't change any of my opinions or what I opined to. It didn't change anything with my testimony.
I'm going to ask you one more time. I'll ask you a different question.
Asked and answered. He's answered it
Receiving that information
multiple times.
from your employer, are you denying it helped you understand what was going on during the trial?
I'm going to allow that.
I'm going to allow it.
I don't even think that it did. I don't understand it. I understood what was happening. I understood what the theory was. So saying that there's trace DNA doesn't change anything. It doesn't affect what
So this part, and then the next part
my
gets
understanding of
pissed.
the trial was, or what was happening, or what
Rentschler
allegedly
gets
occurred.
pissed.
The question. Details matter. Was there any attempt?
So the objection's sustained. I'm going to strike that, folks. Okay. Questions, Mr. Brennan?
Was there
So,
any your conversation?
so he's getting these comments in, and I'm pretty sure the jury is just getting pissed at this.
To portray
Sure, they have to be.
Sorry, your arrangements with concern coming out here.
No, I don't think so, because there was no need to, because it was independent.
When you had conversations with the defense, did they offer to give you transportation assistance getting here?
They provided a ride to and from the airport, yes.
Did you tell the defense that you prefer to take an Uber so that it would appear independent to a jury?
No, because I didn't take an Uber. I took the ride. If I wanted to appear independent, then I would have taken an Uber.
Did you have a conversation about that you were thinking about taking an Uber?
It didn't even cross my mind, sir.
And then after you testified, did you stay independent?
What do you mean independent?
Did you
I love how he kicks back questions too. He starts doing this even more and more. He's going to question Brennan. What are you talking about?
Any bias?
Bias, yes.
What do you mean? Did I have any bias?
After you testified, where did you go?
Well, I was waiting for my ride, and to get back to the airport, they had to take other people, and so they were having a
So
lunch
here
afterwards.
we
so
go.
they come have a
Here's
sandwich, and then the ride was taken to the
sandwich
airport. So I
part.
went.
Oh my
I had a ham
God.
sandwich.
Did you testify at some
Ham
point
sandwich.
that after you had something to eat, you just stood in the corner?
I did. I just sat at a table, ate, and then went over and literally stood in the corner waiting for my ride.
When you sat at the table and eat, did you just eat your ham sandwich, or did more go on?
I ate. People were talking. I really didn't talk much at all.
Did you listen?
Well, certainly, I'm sure I did, sir.
Did you laugh a lot?
I assume if something funny was said, I probably laughed.
Did you talk about your testimony?
I don't. At this point, I don't even remember.
Let me alert you to something. When you were there at the luncheon, did you see a camera crew
I believe I did, yes, sir.
filming and documenting, right?
There were a lot of cameras, yes.
You know that you might have been on some of that footage?
That's fine. I could care less.
Okay. So do you think maybe you were talking about the case and your answers and laughing it up a little bit?
I have no idea. Possibly.
You were involved in conversations with the defense attorneys, were you?
What do you mean conversation, sir? I just gotten done testifying.
So this guy testified in the trial last year that the car didn't hit him. He doesn't believe the car hit John. He knows that this is a farce, right? This whole thing is a complete farce. And he's human, like most of us, who realize that this is a farce. So he's going to make fun. I think what Brennan is saying that oh, you know, you were captured on film making fun of Lally in his questions. Everybody made fun of Lally in his questions. So I mean, Brennan thinks he's got something here, and he doesn't.
I was
Just-
having lunch. Whatever was spoken about at the table, I'm sure I heard.
You know what a conversation is when someone speaks to you and you answer.
Sure.
Did you have conversations with some of these folks?
Sir, I can't remember conversations I had last week, let alone a year ago. So I probably did, but I have no clue
you remember
what we would have talked about.
Do you remember accolades you might have been receiving because you had given certain answers to the then prosecutor on the case and laughing about the answers?
I have no idea.
Why does it? I mean, he testified for the defense. He testified for the defense last year. The prosecution did not want to have anything to do with Dr. Rentschler last year because they knew that their testing proved that this didn't happen.
I can't remember last week what I had for lunch last Tuesday. How would I remember a conversation from over a year ago?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember when you were having
I mean,
conversations with
this
some of
is
these
so
folks
stupid.
and you were laughing about what the prosecutor asked you about other evidence like DNA? You had a response, well, physics doesn't change. You remember?
I don't specifically remember that, no, sir.
How long were you at the table eating your ham sandwich with the
Eating your ham sandwich.
folks
I
there
mean,
enjoying the event? How long do you think that went on for?
I honestly don't know. 10 minutes. How long does it take you to eat a ham sandwich? 10 minutes?
And after you finished your ham sandwich and then you told us you stood in the corner, you got a ride back to the airport?
I did, yes, sir.
Yeah. After you got back to the airport, ultimately your company billed the defense for your time preparing and traveling and testifying?
I believe they did.
Well, you wrote your bills down, didn't you? You wrote the time down?
Well, I don't know who gets billed to it. I think it was actually, I wrote my time down and it was the same time code for the original job.
oh, all right. So we're going to go over the billing stuff. The billing stuff's stupid. So I'm just going to skip through this.
I believe so, yes.
Well, when you say you believe so, details matter.
Yeah.
Do you know
whether there was a court order for you to bring your text.
I believe there was, yes.
Did you comply with that court order?
So now we're going to talk about the stupid text again. Then he asked him about Signal.
Have conversations with their clients.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
These foundations, Bev.
Because of course Bev allows it.
Or cohorts too.
One of your fellow employees is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Wolf. Yeah. When you worked on this case when you began, you worked with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Klein.
Scott Klein is another engineer.
As a group?
Well, I'm in the office, and Mr. Klein and Dr. Wolf are in the.
Oh, yeah. So.
Well, I mean, we all worked on the project together. I'm located in the Pittsburgh office, and Mr. Klein and Dr. Wolf are in the Philadelphia office. So we didn't physically work together, but we worked on the same project, obviously.
Philly? Crash Daddy? For Philly? Go Phils.
Remember that testimony?
I do, yes.
And when you said you were restrained, were you attempting like a preemptive strike because of certain things you didn't do to try to ward off any questions about that?
Yes. Sustained.
Let me ask it this way. Were the rules different regarding your initial investigation for you as opposed to Dr. Wolf?
I don't know that they were. I don't believe they were.
Did Dr. Wolf have free reign to do whatever he wanted?
Objection. Sustained.
Were you given free reign to do whatever testing you wanted?
I don't believe we were, no.
You, though, were you?
Was I?
Yes, were you given free reign to do whatever testing you wanted?
I mean, there was budgets, and we had to stay within certain values. So I wouldn't say I was given free reign because I couldn't do whatever I wanted.
Did anybody tell you what tests you could or couldn't do?
I don't think there was a list of specific tests or not, but you would discuss what would be done or what we could not do and what the cost of those tests would be.
Were you free to suggest any tests that you wanted to?
I'm assuming I could suggest whatever I wanted to, sure.
Were any of your suggestions denied?
I can't remember. I don't know that they were. I mean, we had what we were constrained is what the client wanted to know. And so we tailored our test to do that and tried to keep, honestly, I don't know. I mean, it might have been brought up, but.
Doing crash tests last year.
I can't remember. We obviously didn't, but I don't know if that was brought up or not.
Do you, since your memory is difficult.
Sustained. Okay.
Ask for the admonishment. It's not going to matter at all. When did we first do this? Like 3
So
weeks ago.
another comment. Another comment from another little
same circus, same
comment
monkeys.
from-
We've been watching. Going on 8 weeks now.
To remember things,
Forward
you
here.
write them down.
That's one of the ways we do it, sure.
Do you do it? Do you write down things so you don't forget?
Depends what it is.
Killer blow there.
You provided a CV.
Now we're going to. So
that's correct. Yeah.
he's going to go now over his peer-reviewed articles from when he was in college, when he was doing his PhD to get his doctorate. And when you're young and you're doing your PhD and you pick something that you know that fits in with your degree that you're going after, and then you write stuff on those topics and then you go about it. So we're gonna go over his publication.
Publications that are peer reviewed.
Correct.
And
Like this, I mean, so all of these things were scientific papers that were peer reviewed that he got published.
any peer reviewed articles since 2000?
Yesterday, most of my peer-reviewed articles are all written when I was in graduate school. Correct.
Have you had any peer review articles since 2003?
No, probably not. No.
And your peer review articles, 2003, deal with the evaluation of selected electric-powered wheelchairs.
That was one of them. Yes, sir.
The next one, intelligent walkers for the elderly.
Correct.
Comparison of fatigue life for 3 types of manual wheelchairs.
Yes, sir.
Evaluation of a pushroom activated power assisted wheelchair.
He goes through every single one of his, like this is some kind of got you that you in college when you were studying to be this is 2003. So we're talking over 20 years ago, right? This guy now has 20 years of experience in his field. But because in 2003, when he was in graduate school, he did studies on wheelchair, and he still does stuff for, smart inventions for elderly people, which I will need eventually. So
Selected ultralight manual wheelchairs.
let's skip forward there.
Documentation of, so you would agree that all of your peer review articles deal with wheelchairs?
Well, wheelchairs and the kinematics and kinetics forces associated with propelling wheelchairs and injuries associated with that. Yes, sir.
Do any of them deal with pedestrian collisions?
No, they don't.
You've written a book chapter?
Yes, sir.
Smart technology for aging? Looking at your CV, you can note any area of specialty you'd like.
correct?
You can put down whatever you like, I suppose, sure.
Have you listed any specialty as pedestrian collisions?
Oh yeah,
Specifically, that actually falls under
he's
impact,
he's mad.
biomechanical injury causation.
so
I didn't
mad.
list it specifically, but it certainly falls under the actual expertise I perform.
That's the fun thing about this too, is he gets his ass kicked again. This is 2 days in a row that Hank has finally gotten his ass kicked.
A chance to look at now, doctor. When you work with Dr. Wolf, did you have a chance to look at his report? Did you find anything about his report?
Now we're
What's
gonna
wrong
get
as
there.
far as data.
I don't recall. If I did, I probably would have talked to him, but I don't extend. Yes,
Some things Dr. Wolf did, you relied on ultimately for your interpretation and your conclusions.
I did. Yes.
Did you write a report and talked about the acceleration of the ATD, the test dummies, regarding its hands and arms?
I did. Yes.
When you wrote your report talking about this very specific data, do you remember what you determined was the acceleration for the ADT right hand at 29 miles per hour? How many G's that was?
Yeah, it looks like 863 Gs.
And when you were comparing data with Dr. Wolf, if something was different or off, would you correct it?
I talked to him about it, sure.
Okay. Did you ever talk to him about his collection of data regarding peak acceleration that the arm and hand experienced at a 29 mile per hour collision?
Well, when I think that 863 is from 1,000, the CFC 1,000 hertz low pass filter. And in his report, he used a lower number from a 180 hertz. So they're both accurate numbers. It's just how you actually filter the data.
So you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do, yeah. And I ended up using a lower number than when I did my calculations.
Could we have exhibit 1, please? You've talked a lot about this photograph. Do you see it?
I do, sir, yes.
And you described, well, you didn't describe, you read that these were superficial abrasions, correct?
That's the diagnosis, yes, sir.
Any of those wounds a puncture in your mind?
I don't make.
So now he's going to try and get Brennan to say if any of these are punctures. He's going to go back to his thought that punctures are some specific
medical diagnosis, so I'm not going to comment
I
on
don't
that.
even get what this is.
X-rays and injury. I know you don't make medical diagnosis, but you were very careful to be detailed about what this was. Not a laceration, right? It is a superficial abrasion.
That was what was diagnosed by the medical records, yes, sir.
And you were very careful to make that distinction when you were critiquing Dr. Welch. Judge.
Sustained example.
And so you also looked at X-rays, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And when you looked at them, did you try to get the impression that you've read them, even though you're not a doctor and you can interpret them?
Sustained.
Were you trying to interpret them for us?
No, it was actually interpreted by the medical examiner that there were no acute injuries.
So when you were giving all that information to the jury about the X-rays, was that your personal opinion, or were you just regurgitating something you had read?
Were you just regurgitating something that you read? Like, oh, this jury, if this jury is not already mad about this is just condescending. You're condescending. This is not how you are supposed to act in a court. This is not how you're supposed to act in a court. And of course, Bev does nothing.
That was the medical examiner's opinion, but certainly you can look at the X-rays and see that there are no actual fracture lines or space displacement between the joints. But it's the medical
I love how he's still looking at the jury. He looks at the jury a lot.
examiner and his diagnoses that I rely upon.
So when you were going through an explanation of all these different photographs and X-rays, you weren't trying to portray that you were giving your own personal opinion about it?
I don't give diagnoses, but if there's no fractures on an X-ray is diagnosed by an MD or physician, you can look at the X-ray and then you can see why there are no fractures. You can look at the X-ray and see where the fractures are if there's a diagnosis. So the diagnosis was no fracture, no acute injury, and that's certainly consistent with looking at the X-ray itself.
So when you were looking up the X-ray and holding it up, was that just a prop? I mean, were you simply just regurgitating what you read in the report? Or were you doing a certain kind of, were you doing any kind of analysis yourself when you were sharing with us what those X-rays showed or didn't show?
The analysis is that there's no fracture or acute injury, and that's what the medical diagnosis is, and that's what the X-rays showed.
Are you giving us your opinion, or are you regurgitating what you read in the
answered.
report?
That is what the medical diagnosis is, that there's no fractures and no acute injury.
So that could have been objected to, but AJ lets him go because he's doing more damage than an objection would do.
That's what the medical opinion is.
So you're regurgitating what's in the report.
Sustained indefinite.
Did you see any MRIs?
I don't believe any MRIs were taken or performed.
In X-rays, does it?
What the hell does that even do?
Tissue damage?
Normally, it does not depict soft tissue damage, no.
How about muscle?
So is he going to say that there's soft tissue damage when we know we've already seen they show that there's no soft tissue damage? Is that the argument?
No, it does not.
What in the world?
Not normally, except you can see laxity in the joints if there is tendon or ligament tears. Normally, you can see laxity in the joints, but it doesn't show the ligament or the tendon itself.
Nerve injuries?
No, sir.
Avulsion fractures?
Yes, sir.
People sometimes get MRIs to see if there's a fracture that doesn't appear in an X-ray. Yes.
Sometimes X-rays are the best for looking at bony fractures. MRIs looking at soft tissue injuries.
Speaking of,
no, that's not correct.
Wounds. You've cited a number of references, a number of materials in your reports, haven't you?
I have, yes, sir.
And one of them that you've cited is forensic pathology.
Yes, sir.
This is a legitimate source to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've relied on it for at least part of the basis of your study or opinions.
Well, I relied on it because it speaks and looks at the difference between, for instance, a laceration and an abrasion.
A person could be struck by a motor vehicle and not indicate any bruising to that area, wouldn't you say?
At what speed, what part of the vehicle were they contacted?
So yeah, he's getting pissed off, and he's just going to start. I mean, he's going to do exactly what. What's funny is, remember all the other equivocating witnesses that had to put their stuff in? He's giving it right back, and good on him.
Part of the body where they contacted, it depends on.
This is point. I mean, because Brennan asked these really generic, stupid questions that don't really have an answer.
The amount of force associated with that, there's a number of variables involved.
Okay. Does the absence of a bruise indicate that there was no blunt force trauma to the area?
I'm going to allow it. Can you answer that?
Well, the absence of a bruise, can you repeat that again?
You were talking about bruising.
Yes.
Does the absence of a bruise necessarily indicate there was no blunt force trauma to an area?
No, you have to look at all the evidence, and you have to look at the force. If there's 4,000 pounds of force applied to the body or to the arm, then certainly you would expect a bruise. And if there's no bruise, then you would have to question if that impact or contact actually occurred. You don't just look at that by itself in isolation. You look at all the variables and facts involved with the case to determine if an injury occurred.
Have you ever seen collisions where more than one person was hit?
So this. Here we go. We're going to get stupid. This gets stupid.
By the vehicle.
Projection.
And he has none of this. He's like, I'm not going to play your freaking game, dude.
Irrelevant.
You mean?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Not going to
Have you ever
play.
seen in a collision where the vehicle's going the same speed when it hits multiple different people?
Objection.
There can be multiple different
Relevance.
injuries.
That is so vague, and you'd have to go back and look at the specific case, look at the injuries, look at the vehicle, look at the people. You can't just say, is it possible this could occur? You have to look at a specific case and demonstrate that that could actually happen.
Well, I'm not asking if it's possible. I'm asking in your experience. Have you
I'm going to allow that.
ever been involved in evaluating multiple pedestrian crash where there are multiple pedestrians hit by one vehicle and they sustain different, or in some cases, no injuries? That ever happened in your study?
Sure, because it depends where they're hit, what part of the body they're hit on, what the force is for that hit. The people aren't going to be hit the same multiply by one vehicle. You can certainly have multiple people in different types of injuries.
Have you seen people hit by a vehicle at a particular speed and have certain injuries, and then you've seen other cases where people are hit by a vehicle similar speed but have no injuries? Have you ever seen that?
I'm going to allow it.
So what do you mean by injuries?
Have you ever seen?
I love this.
Hit at a certain speed and have
Oh
injuries?
yeah.
Another
No, yep. You nailed it. He thinks he's so smart. He thinks he's so smart. And he thinks these things are so brilliant. And Massachusetts is a stupid, stupid place.
you look at where there was a
My
similar
God.
collision with different injuries.
So again, do you mean abrasions, cut, laceration, fracture? Do you mean same cars? It's not something that you look for and compare between cases. You'd have to go back and actually study the cases and look at the details.
Having
You don't
experienced
matter,
pedestrian collisions,
okay?
you can't think of a similarity between cases as far as vehicles and speeds and totally different injuries occurring.
I'm going to allow that. Can you?
Do you mean hit the same way with the same type of car at the same speed with the same force?
I'm going to allow it. Can you answer?
I don't believe I've ever seen a case where two people were hit
All
with the
things
same
are
car at the
identical.
same speed with the same force with different injuries. I don't even know if you can correlate that.
Looking at Exhibit 1, have you done any study about the directionality of glass or broken plastic?
What do you mean by directionality?
About when something shatters, how it shatters. Does it shatter the same every time, or when plastic shatters, does it shatter differently?
It certainly depends on the impact.
Do you have any studies where plastic shatters exactly the same way on
I love how he's going back to this. Do you have any studies? Do you have any peer-reviewed articles?
different impacts?
I doubt that it shatters exactly the same way.
It has a lot of different variables, doesn't it?
It could.
Depends on a number of different equations, doesn't it?
Well, it depends on the testing you do. If you want to see how it shatters, and if you're claiming that it shattered in a certain way to cause a certain injury, if you don't have any peer-reviewed evidence, if you don't have any research, then you have to do the testing, because you can't just say, well, it's possible it could shatter this way and cause that injury. That's not conclusive. You can't use that to come to an opinion about what happened.
Oh my
I'm
God.
asking you if you have seen in cases
explained
that
it anyway,
when
didn't he?
plastic breaks, it breaks differently.
Well, sure. I mean, the testing we've done here, the taillights covers fractured differently, and we didn't get any contact. So I have personal experience just with this case alone.
We'll get to the contact. When you look at all the tests you did, the plastic broke differently in each and every case, every experiment, didn't it?
Sure, it's broken like that. And I've never seen a case where you get these types of abrasions.
I didn't ask you that. that funny?
It's not funny.
So I'm going to strike the comment. Next question. Next question, Mr. Brennan. No more comments.
When you did your
No more comments, Mr. Brennan. Please don't do any more comments.
experiments, the sizes.
He's getting pissed. Every time this guy crushes him, he gets more and more pissed. It's so funny. It's hilarious. This is awesome. I'm loving this.
They were, yes.
The number of breaks in each experiment were different, weren't they?
They were, yes.
The angles of the break changed from piece to piece, experiment to experiment, didn't they?
I'm sure they did.
Did you watch the videos and watch the damage and take a look and count how many pieces broke in each experiment?
I didn't specifically count, no. We looked at contact to the sleeve and to the dummy itself.
You never counted the broken pieces in each experiment?
I did not. There was no need to.
Not matter if there's a need, did you?
I did not, no, sir.
Well, it does matter if there's the need, doesn't
You
it?
had talked quite a bit about Dr. Welcher's test with the paint, so I want to ask you some questions about that. Were you ever under the impression
What in the world? Oh no. Well, I mean that's probably the best. They know what's going on. They know how to deal with that. So yeah, no, I can see me bummed though. Okay, so here, this is what I'm talking about, the Perry Mason moment. This is the anti-Perry Mason moment where I don't even know what this is. What? Listen to what he says.
Were you ever under the impression that Mr. Welcher, you can take that down, please. Were you ever under the impression that Dr. Welcher was trying to reenact?
Oh, now we get to ask about what Dr. Welcher was trying to do?
I'm going to allow it.
We're going to ask about it on direct.
That was the
Doors
only
open now,
test he
right?
performed, and he referenced that test for his opinion that the position and orientation of the lacerations are consistent with the tail light cover. So if that test was not intended to signify or demonstrate the position of the arm, he has no evidence to say the position and orientation of the arm in the lacerations, which are abrasions, are consistent with the tail light cover. That's the only test he did. So if it doesn't represent that, it's really meaningless in his analysis and conclusions.
Now that you've shared your opinions, can I get back to my question?
Sustained. So, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Brent, I'm going to see counsel at sidebar.
Yeah, he's asking for the admonishment in front of the jury. Should I?
So, okay, so did you think that Dr. Welcher was reenacting what happened? And he's like, well, if he didn't reenact what happened, what was he doing? And then he's like,
conclusions.
Now that you've shared your opinions, can I get back to my question?
Sustained. So, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Brent, I'm going to see counsel at sidebar.
Yeah, he's asking for the admonishment in front of the.
all right, so at this point, we have, let's go to Sue O'Connell. And because at this point, we go to lunch. So let me see if I can find it here. It might take me a moment here. I'll go here. It was before this. Nope, done in direct. Oh, hunch. I thought that said lunch. All right, so 7 jurors writing others. So other looking at Rentschler while he testifies about plastics. Expressive juror is given. And Rentschler the same skeptical look. One juror asked for the court officers. She looked sick. Jurors are taken out. She looked like she was going to faint. And early lunch to accommodate the juror. So at this point, the juror said, I don't want to, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And let's see if, I don't know if Ted Daniels had anything about that or not. There was some speculation, and this is very much speculation, that that juror was not happy with this with all the comments. Do we know that? We don't know that. We have no idea about that. And so, but her saying to the court, grabbing the court officer and saying, "Hey, I don't feel good," and then breaking for lunch early, that's kind of interesting. So they go to lunch early.
The jury, it should have happened a long time ago. Should have happened a long.
They're asking for damn, these comments are just, it's nonstop with the freaking comments. So, okay.
Jurors, hopefully it'll be comfortable enough.
Was paint.
This has done a great job keeping the AC going while we were.
Yeah, that's correct, yes, sir.
And in that report, you provided a number of opinions, didn't you?
I did,
There
yes.
you go. Back to Brennan.
Do you remember if you
Angry Brennan.
had the opinion that the injuries on Mr. O'Keefe's arm would not result from impact with a non-damaged tail lamp cover?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And the amount of force required to fracture the tail lamp cover would result in extensive soft tissue and likely bony injury to Mr. O'Keefe's right arm.
Correct.
And so your opinion back in 2004 was that if a person's arm were to cause damage to that tail light on that Lexus, you would expect to see extensive soft tissue and likely bony injury.
Yes, soft tissue referring to ligaments and tendons of the elbow and shoulder, correct, and the wrist.
And so you're saying not superficial abrasions, but in the arm?
Yes, when you look at it, and you can see from the testing we did for this case, for this round, that the arm extends and you have contact with the arm, you would expect at those speeds damage to the tendons and the ligaments, the elbow, the shoulder, likely the wrist.
And the x-rays that we looked at, or that we saw, and you offered the words of the medical expert, there is no MRI studying any ligament damage, is there?
There are no MRIs that I'm aware of, no, sir.
And x-rays wouldn't fairly depict some of those internal injuries that you're referring to, would they?
As I described before, it can show laxity of the joint, but it normally doesn't show the actual soft tissue damage itself, no, sir.
We already know that there was no bruising. We already know that. They looked under his arm.
And a crash test dummy is different than a person, isn't it?
Certainly it is, yes.
No
sir.
muscle.
That's correct.
No ligaments.
That's correct.
The crash test dummy does not react or respond like a human being.
You don't lean into the car, that's for sure.
Yes.
There are differences.
Certainly there are, yes.
And so when you're looking at a crash test dummy, you can agree that there are significant differences between what you might see on the dummy's arm and what would maybe happen to a human being's arm on the inside.
There can be. That's why you have to look at the acceleration and the force, and that's primarily what the ATD is utilized for.
But focusing on the actual observation of the arm, you would agree, doctor, that looking at a crash test dummy arm is not comparable to actually looking into a human being's arm with an MRI and seeing if there's any damage on the inside.
No, of course, they're not the same, no, sir.
You were speaking about references earlier. You did have a chance to see Dr. Welcher's report, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And in his report, there were a number of references, weren't there?
There were different references, but I think maybe 26 within his report.
In addition to his references, you were sent a number of gigabytes of information, weren't you?
I was, yes.
And in those gigabytes, there was different references to different materials, wasn't there?
Well, first of all, there were only 26 references in his report that he cited to for his opinions. There was material contained within the batch of documents that they sent over. There was a bibliography or CV of different papers that he had submitted, I think 20 pages of papers that weren't referenced in the original report. And the most recent paper in that AutoPed packet was from 2004. Most of them were from the 60s and 70s, but there was an additional packet of it.
You read his report and saw his references. Did you look up the references?
I did, yes, sir.
Okay. And when you were saying earlier that there's only one reference, you were referring to the pink test, correct?
Well, I was referring to, there's only one reference specifically with respect to automobile pedestrian impacts.
When you looked at his references, sir, did you have an opportunity to read any of the articles?
I did, yes, sir.
And many of them are peer-reviewed?
Yes, sir.
In addition, when you looked at the 20 pages of materials he sent over that were not in his report, how many references did you read out of the 20 pages of references that he offered?
Well, I didn't read any because they weren't referred to in his report for his actual opinions in this case.
Do you know whether or not he considered those references or whether he read those references?
We don't allow that.
He didn't cite any of those references in either the PowerPoint presentation.
He didn't cite any of these. Why would you look at something? So he sent over a bibliography. I mean, this just shows Jud was an idiot too. And Brennan's just going to lean in on what an idiot Jud was.
Or in his report, that's the knowledge I have of whether he reviewed those.
So you don't know what he considered or thought, do you?
I know what he cited to and he referenced to in his report in PowerPoint. That's the extent.
The question is, you don't know.
You don't know what he referenced. Well, if he referenced it, why didn't he put it in his report?
What he was referring or reading or relying on, other than what was in his report cited, correct?
Well, right. If he referred to the other articles, yes, certainly other articles in the 60s, 70s, and 80s he may have, but they don't really pertain to what happened in this case.
How many references were in your May 7th report?
I think there were.
Now we're into the number of studies battle. Only
report to suggest some type of support for the proposition that you're promoting in the report?
Well, they support the opinions or the methodology or both with respect to what I've offered in this.
The reason why you put a cite in is suggesting that it supports whatever proposition you're footnoting on that.
To some extent, or the methodology or some information pertinent to that opinion, yes, sir.
Regarding crash test dummies and prediction in soft tissue injury, you provided 3 cites.
So what's funny is Brennan tries to get him on the soft tissue looking at crash test dummies, and Rentschler just says, well, I didn't do this. I didn't do what you're accusing me of doing. So,
Didn't you?
And soft tissue injuries?
Yes.
Can you show me where it says that, sir?
Footnote 11 of your report, Mr. O'Keefe's right arm kinematics during impact with the Lexus are inconsistent with producing the documented cuts damage to his right sleeve, as well as the abrasions to his right arm. Did you write that?
Yes. And which one was that again? I just want to make sure. What was the number?
You cited footnotes 24, 25, and 26.
Yes.
And when you cited 24, 25, 26, did any of those 3 sites, in fact, those are the only sites that you cited for that proposition, correct?
Yes, sir.
So your entire basis of sites is limited to those 3 articles or 3 papers, yes?
For reference, it's not, the testing obviously proves differently, but yes, for that one comment there, those were the 3 that were provided, yes.
Starting with number 24. When you looked at 24, did it ever suggest in this paper, did it ever suggest that it was appropriate to use a crash test dummy in the material of a crash test dummy to make an analysis or determine whether or not there would be documented damage to someone's skin?
No, it didn't, and that's not what I did in this matter.
In this article you cite supporting the claim that you made, there is nothing in here that would suggest that a crash test dummy is appropriate to use in making that determination, is there?
There is not, no, sir.
In fact, in this article, it gives you details on what actually should be used to make that analysis, doesn't it?
No, sir. It tells you certain ways to look at sharpness and how lacerations are caused.
This is titled Skin Tissue Cutability and its Relation to Lacerations Severity Indices. You know that. You cited that.
That's correct. And it looks at specifically, I think, laminated glass and its ability to cut the skin.
Number 24 in your site, correct?
Yes.
And it tells you 3 types of skin were examined and used for this type of study. Post-mortem human skin from 2 different body sites, Camios leather, and Napa goat skin. Is that correct?
Right, to look specifically at laminated glass and it's the cutability of that type of glass.
And the reason why the study is giving those suggestions is because a crash test dummy's arm and fabric, the way it's made, is different than how real skin would respond. Yes?
Well, it is different, sure. Yeah. And I didn't do that type of comparison.
You did not do
I didn't do it. I didn't do what you're asking, what you're accusing me of.
any comparisons with any of the suggestions in the site that you cited in support for your proposition, did you?
Oh, I did not evaluate that. No, not in that manner. No, sir.
And then you cited number 24 or 25. You cited a book, Forensic Pathology, correct?
Correct.
And in this forensic pathology book, in the entire book, it never suggests that crash test dummies are appropriate to use when making this type of analysis, does it?
Correct. And that's why I would not do that type of analysis with respect to lacerations. That's not what my analysis involves, sir.
My question was, nowhere in that book does it say that crash test dummies are appropriate for analyzing skin lacerations on a collision, does it?
Sure. I mean, for that sake, it doesn't say it's inappropriate either.
And then you also cited an article, your third article.
Didn't say you can't use it, dummy.
Understanding the acute skin injury mechanisms caused by player surface contact during soccer.
All of this
You
is
cite that?
so stupid.
Yes. And again, there's nothing in
all
there that
so
talks about
stupid.
the appropriate use of a crash test dummy when you are trying to support the proposition that someone's arm is consistent or inconsistent with producing cuts and damage in a collision.
That's correct.
Are you aware of literature relative specifically to the use of the hybrid 3 crash test dummy, which was used in this case?
There's a lot of literature with respect to the hybrid dummy, yes.
Have you ever heard of the person by the name of Stanley Bakatis?
I don't recall that I have.
Okay. How about Harold Mertz? Isn't he a leader in the field with crash test dummies?
He is, yes.
Would you agree that we also do not believe the current instrumented arm configuration is suitable either for prediction of soft tissue injuries? Would you agree with that?
Well, for laceration, sure, it shouldn't be used for that. It shouldn't be used in that manner. That's why I don't use it in that manner.
Do you have any source that says it's suitable for determining superficial abrasions?
I do not know, sir.
You have no other sites whatsoever supporting that proposition, which led inevitably to one of the opinions you gave to this jury, true?
No, not true. That's a misrepresentation of what I performed, the testing I performed, and the results that I analyzed in this case.
Now, you've talked a lot about Dr. Welcher's.
He just won't give it up. He just won't give it up.
Pain test. You don't have any information that Dr. Welcher ever claimed that his test was intended to represent exactly how Mr. O'Keefe's arm was when he was hit. Do you?
Well, the evidence I have for that is that in his report, he says that the orientation and position of the lacerations are consistent with the orientation position of the taillight cover. And then right under that, he has reference to that test that he performed. So again, if he didn't intend to do that, then there's no evidence that he can provide with respect to the arm impact at all. That's the only test that was performed to look at the arm and the taillight cover. If it doesn't represent the actual position, then apparently he has no idea how the arm was positioned or how it was impacted.
Let's get back to my question.
Yes.
Is there anything
Come on,
where
AJ, wake
Dr.
up.
Welcher has informed you or written that he is intending to represent the actual arm angle of John O'Keefe when he was hit by Alexis?
Again, I just described what he has in his actual report. So he didn't write specifically that that's what it's intended to do. It seems he's inferred that. And again, that's the only test that he's performed or referred to.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
You don't have any information that Dr. Welcher ever claimed that his test was intended to represent exactly how Mr. O'Keefe's arm was when he was hit.
This is reasonable doubt. This is reasonable doubt. You don't have any evidence that Dr. Welcher's his test was actually meant to say how this happened, do you? What?
Well, the evidence I have for that is that in his report, he says that the orientation and position of the lacerations are consistent with the orientation position of the taillight cover. And then right under that, he has reference to that test that he performed. So again, if he didn't intend to do that, then there's no evidence that he can provide with respect to the arm impact at all. That's the only test that was performed to look at the arm and the taillight cover. If it doesn't represent the actual position, then apparently he has no idea how the arm was positioned or how it was impacted.
Let's get back to my question.
Yes.
Is there anything
Come on,
where
AJ, wake
Dr.
up.
Welcher has informed you or written that he is intending to represent the actual arm angle of John O'Keefe when he was hit by Alexis?
Again, I just described what he has in his actual report. So he didn't write specifically that that's what it's intended to do. It seems he's inferred that. And again, that's the only test that he's performed or referred to in this case.
You inferred that?
Inferred that that's how he believes that the arm was positioned?
I think we understand your perspective is that the only test he performed, but what I really want to get at is your conclusion, your assumption that Dr. Welcher was suggesting that there was a specific arm angle that occurred in this case that he was identifying. You don't see that anywhere in his report.
Well, it would be pretty odd if the one test he ran didn't actually represent what he thought happened. I don't understand what the value of that would actually be.
Did Dr. Welcher ever represent that he was trying to describe the actual body position of John O'Keefe when he was hit?
Actually, he doesn't state that. He states very little in his report or in his PowerPoint. He demonstrates through the video of his arm like that and contacting it, and then he holds his arm up to a picture of Mr. O'Keefe's right arm to compare and apparently demonstrate that it's in the same area. But again, he doesn't actually state that opinion. He doesn't state any opinions that the contact actually occurred, except in one point, and has no evidence or foundation for that.
Would the answer to my question be no?
You would have to ask Dr. Welcher, I suppose. But if it's not, again, then I'm not sure what that test actually accomplished or represented.
You've made assumptions and then have given opinions to this jury based on your assumptions, haven't you?
I've evaluated the evidence in the one test he ran. If that's incorrect, well, then I would have to correct my opinion and my assumption and say that not only is the test not actually show what occurred, but he hasn't performed anything to actually link the arm contact to the taillight cover. If it doesn't represent that, you're right, I changed my opinion. That there's no evidence, no analysis, no conclusion whatsoever.
I'm going to try to make
He's crushing him here. What the hell is this? What is this?
my question a little clearer. Is there anything in the report where Dr. Welcher has stated that the arm angle in the demonstration was in any way attempt to replicate
What are we doing?
I don't believe anything's written in the report with respect to that, no.
Is there anything in the report, Dr. Welcher, anything that states Dr. Welcher was stating or claiming that he knew the body position of John O'Keefe when he was struck?
I'm going to allow that.
So no, I guess there is no opinion or conclusion that he knows how Mr. O'Keefe was actually positioned at the time of this alleged incident.
Do you know whether Dr. Welcher has been clear that he does not know? Let me say this differently. You would agree, Dr. Welcher has never stated in his report that he can identify the speed at which Mr. O'Keefe was struck in collision.
He does not state what he thinks the speed is, that's correct.
He never states how far, if at all, Mr. O'Keefe was thrown after being in collision.
That's right, he does not.
When you don't know the speed, you don't know the body position, and you don't know the angle of the body at the time of collision, you cannot replicate a collision with crash test dummies to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty.
Yeah, you have
You're right, you can't prove that actually occurred. That's the basis, yeah.
So,
if you don't have the information, you can't replicate what happened. You can't determine, you can't state to any conclusion of accuracy what actually occurred if you don't have the evidence.
So if you were to do a crash reenactment.
What are we
But to say to a
doing?
degree of scientific certainty, this replicated the actual collision. That wouldn't be scientifically reliable to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, would it?
Well, if you perform a test and you state this is what I tested and this is the angle, then you can certainly say these are my conclusions. But if you don't know the throw distance, if you don't know the position, then you're correct. You can't actually come to a conclusion that it didn't occur. If you don't know how something occurred, how can you conclude that it actually occurred? It scientifically makes no sense.
So,
I mean, is this just so? Patty had a. I'm gonna talk about your thought earlier, and I looked it up. There's nowhere that you can legally bet on this case, right? There's nowhere that you could legally make a bet. You can't bet on the outcomes. There's no Vegas sports book or anything. And there's a lot of things that you can bet on in Vegas. Vegas has all kinds of prop bets, right? Proposition bets. You can't bet on cases. But I bet you there's underground, probably in the Boston area. There is definitely, I mean, Hank was Whitey Bulger's attorney. So we're thinking that the certain folks came to Mr. Brennan and said, hey, we've got a lot of money riding on this case, and she needs to be found not guilty. So I'm thinking that somebody got to Hank and said, you make sure that you throw this case, because this is the only way that you ask and say, my expert doesn't actually know what happened. He wrote a report, but the report's actually not right. What in the world? What are we doing?
Does a crash test, and they can't determine to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that it replicates the actual collision. You would agree that would not be a reliable test to present to a jury, don't you?
Could be perfectly reliable. Very briefly. The test could be perfectly reliable. It's just that it may or may not be relevant to what the jury needs to decide. But of course, the test could be reliable even if.
He said, I have conducted an accident reconstruction and biomechanical.
Okay, so all right, I wanted to get, we need to go back to this because this is where it really gets in.
Was standing, moving, or holding his arm at the time of the collision. Be an act agree. There is no in reading the.
And that would be reliable. They just wouldn't be definitive because they still wouldn't prove what actually happened.
In reading the reports and evaluating the PowerPoint, would you agree there is no statement by Dr. Welcher ever in anything that you reviewed that he is claiming or stating that his pain test was supposed to be a reenactment, identifying the details of how Mr. O'Keefe was standing, moving, or holding his arm at the time of the collision?
He did not state that. That's correct.
So when you've made your criticisms that you've done testing regarding Dr. Welcher, you don't have any evidence, any statement that he was trying to reenact the actual collision.
When I did that, there was one test with the arm like this. That's the only evidence that was presented in his opinion or in his case. I evaluated that. I have not seen any other explanation of what happened or how it occurred. Specifically, Dr. Welcher said in his report on page 9, he said, I have conducted an accident reconstruction and biomechanical engineering analysis of this matter. If he did not recreate how he was positioned, if he did not determine the speed of impact, if he did not determine how Mr. O'Keefe's body moved, if he did not determine where he ended up, then he did not conduct either an accident reconstruction analysis or a biomechanical causation analysis. He did nothing of the sort.
What the hell just happened? What just happened? We got to go back to that again because this is one of the most important things from this.
And that would be reliable.
In reading the reports and evaluating the PowerPoint, would you agree there is no statement by Dr. Welcher ever in anything that you reviewed that he is claiming or stating that his pain test was supposed to be a reenactment, identifying the details of how Mr. O'Keefe was standing, moving, or holding his arm at the time of the.
What was it supposed to be? What was it supposed to be then? He put that in front of the jury. He's blowing his own case.
That's correct.
So when you've made your criticisms that you've done testing regarding Dr. Welcher, you don't have any evidence, and his statement that he was trying to reenact the actual collision.
When I did that, there was one test with the arm like this. That's the only evidence that was presented in his opinion or in his case. I evaluated that. I have not seen any other explanation of what happened or how it occurred. Specifically, Dr. Welcher said in his report on page 9, he said, I have conducted an accident reconstruction and biomechanical engineering analysis of this matter. If he did not recreate how he was positioned, if he did not determine the speed of impact, if he did not determine how Mr. O'Keefe's body moved, if he did not determine where he ended up, then he did not conduct either an accident reconstruction analysis or a biomechanical causation analysis. He did nothing of the sort.
Other than your opinion, let's get back to my question if I could.
I believe I answered at the beginning of that, sir.
I'm going to ask you again.
Objection.
The detailed question is, there is nothing in Dr. Welcher's report.
Look at these guys. Look at, watch them.
That states he is trying to represent the exact posture, movement, and stance of Mr. O'Keefe when there was a collision. It's not anywhere in there where he stated that.
It's not stated. I'd be curious to find out what that, if that wasn't the intent of the test, I'd be curious to see what the actual intent was.
Is the answer no? It's not in there.
I think I just said that at the beginning of my answer, sir.
I'm going to ask you again. Is the answer no?
The answer is no.
When you do crash tests, you have a controlled environment.
What? What? I mean, this. Oh my God! There is never never. I don't even know what to say. I cannot be surprised at this case. There's no surprise left in this case. None. There's no or I guess I say, actually, this is surprising. Let me rephrase that completely. My brain went off the tracks there. I have never seen a thing like this where you could actually be surprised that something more crazier has happened than the day before or the day before. Dr. Laposado kicked his ass the other day. We found out early in this trial that Jen McCabe lied to the FBI about how many people she called. We found out that Carrie Roberts never actually heard Karen Reed say, Google how long to die in the cold or Google hypothermia. She never actually heard that, even though she testified to the grand jury that she did. We had 3 days of Yuri Buki on the stand. We had 3 days, and we had the text messages. We had all the bullshit that we got out of him. We had the Barros, the cop, who said, no, that's not what the taillight looked like. And then we have Hank Brennan come in and say, well, we didn't say that's what happened. I mean, look at these guys. This is going to be their close. This is the closing. Watch the faces. Watch your faces.
Objection. The question is, there is nothing in Dr. Welcher's report or any of his presentation that states he is trying to represent the exact posture, movement, and stance of Mr. O'Keefe when there was a collision. It's not anywhere in there where he stated that.
It's not stated. I'd be curious to find out if that wasn't the intent of the.
I want to watch them again in regular time. All right, let's go to regular. Because they're like, this is the closing. This is the closing right here. The prosecution just said, I mean, do you remember their opening statement? The science and the data. The science and the data are going to tell you what happened. And we've got reasonable doubt on every bit of their science. And then the scientists the last few days have kicked he knows it is. So this
the question is, there is nothing in Dr. Welcher's report.
Like Little looks over at her.
Objection.
The question is, there is nothing in Dr. Welcher's report or any of his presentation that states he is trying.
Yanetti's like, what is happening? What is this? He's
any of his presentation that states he is trying to represent the exact posture, movement, and stance of Mr. O'Keefe when there was a collision. It's not anywhere in there where he stated that.
It's not stated. I'd be curious to find out what that, if that wasn't the intent of the test, I'd be curious to see what the actual intent was.
Is the answer no? It's not in there.
I think I just said that at the beginning of my answer, sir.
I'm going to ask you again. Is the answer no?
The answer is no.
I'm gobsmacked. I am like, if that was not, and that's what Rentschler is saying too. He's saying, okay, if that wasn't the test, if the test wasn't supposed to show that that's what happened, why did you do the test? Why did you give Aperture $400,000? What just happened? What? These people are dumb. Is it stupidity? Is that it? I know we talked about Bev the other day being just mentally not able to function, right? Like, she is not well. She is not able to think straight. She's not a smart person at all, right? And so, hang on a second. It don't matter. Where's it at? But Brennan, at least I thought he had a little bit of intelligence, but he just basically, like I said, he anti-Perry Masoned his own case, and he's done it multiple times. That's the thing. He did it right before lunch. You don't see anything in Welcher's report that this was actually replicating what was happening, right? And then he does it here. What in the world?
Crash tests. You have a controlled environment in some respects, don't you?
You do, yes, sir.
You get to control some or sometimes many of the variables, don't you?
You can, yes.
Real life sometimes is described in your world as chaos, right?
I suppose it could be under certain circumstances.
Testing is limited to the variables that you produce, but real life sometimes has variables you can't predict. Isn't that fair to say?
It's possible, yes.
Is it more than possible?
Listen to this. I'll be right back.
I don't know, is it?
Right back.
It depends on the situation and certain variables. It depends on the case. It could be possible, yes.
Have you seen cases where the variables are impossible to predict?
Where the what?
Variables. Have you had cases? You had many cases, you said. Have you had cases where variables are impossible to predict?
It depends. I mean, it depends on what you're looking at. And if you want to conclude that something happened and this is how it occurred, you have to look at those variables. If you can't control for those variables, then it's possible you can't prove that it actually happened. So yes, if you're doing a certain test to prove something, you have to look at how those variables may affect it. But there's basic information you have to know to perform that type of an analysis.
So my question again is, are there scenarios where variables are impossible to predict?
There could be, yes.
Have you had cases yourself where there are variables that were impossible to predict?
I suppose I probably have. I mean, it depends. If you don't know what happened, sure, then you don't know those variables necessarily.
How many cases have you done on pedestrian accidents?
I've done hundreds of cases.
So you have a good background and basis to know whether or not there are variables that sometimes you can't predict, don't you?
Sure. As I said, it depends on the case.
When you did the crash tests in this case, did you actually do them?
I did not, no.
Were you even there when they happened?
I was not, no, sir.
So you're relying, in part, on Dr. Wolf's work.
Mm-hmm.
I am, yes.
If Dr. Wolf made mistakes, would that affect your conclusions?
It depends what mistakes they are.
When you had, or when Dr. Wolf had the crash test dummy in test E and F on a forklift, do you remember those?
I do, yes.
When it's on the forklift, it does not allow the crash test dummy after being struck to move, to be thrown, does it?
Actually, if it's a force acting on it, it will move. It will like a pendulum. So if there's a force acting on it, you'll see which direction it moves. If there's a forward force, it will move. It'll swing forward or sideways or backwards. It can move.
Well, my question isn't direction. It's can it show the throw? Can it throw or move the crash test dummy in its natural course?
Beginning part of it would.
No. In those tests, though, there wouldn't be any throw.
If a crash test dummy is restrained by a forklift.
It's almost like you're not testing.
Oh, that's correct. It doesn't.
It doesn't allow an observation of the crash test dummy to turn or fall, does it?
No, it does not. Well, no, actually, it turns, sure. I mean, it can spin.
How about fall?
No. And a crash test dummy would just fall down anyway.
You've seen crash test dummies where it is held in place electromagnetically, and
lovingly at the hip. In fact, we have.
Have you seen that?
I have, yes.
Have you seen, excuse me, have you seen, was that done in this case?
It wasn't.
Before the impact or a second before
I
the
have,
impact?
yes.
That wasn't done in this case, was it?
What? It wasn't necessary.
Was that done in this case?
It wasn't. I'll speak slower, a little clearer.
If you answer my question.
I just did answer it. I said it wasn't.
When the crash test dummy.
He's like, no, we ain't doing this, buddy. We are not doing this. I'm coming back at you.
Is held by a forklift and the car hits it, it doesn't replicate the drag that the car will have on the crash test dummy as it would a real person, does it?
You can see if there's any drag because it's on like a pendulum. So if there's any drag pushing it forward, it's going to sway that way. It's going to move the dummy. It's not going to move at the distance that it actually would. If there was any distance, it would move it. But you can actually see the motion. And you can see in the testing, the 24-mile-an-hour testing, there was no motion, which is not unexpected for that type of a test.
There is a difference between a crash on center of mass and a fender vault, isn't there?
There is, yes.
Fender vault. So now all of a sudden he's going to bring in fender vault. Just throw fender vault into this thing.
Fender vault is a different type of collision than a center of mass collision. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
It is impossible to replicate all of the different scenarios of the crash test dummy on a fender vault collision, isn't it?
Where does this come from? We've never heard the word fender vault in this entire time. And now all of a sudden we're getting fender vault.
Looking at the injuries or how someone was positioned. So if you know how they were positioned, you can try and replicate that, yes.
Could I have 59 of Dr. Rentschler's PowerPoint, please?
It is. He's really struggling.
In your PowerPoint, you cited an article, Vehicle Pedestrian Collisions,
trying so hard to give him credit.
Pedestrian Impact and Projection, correct?
Yes.
And you put snippets up on the board?
Yes.
Okay. And these snippets talk about an engagement with the pedestrian in the vehicle?
Correct.
Is there a reason why you took out a piece of that article that falls between those two paragraphs?
I don't think so, no. Those were the most relevant parts.
Did you cut out the part that says some frontal collisions are with the corner of the vehicle where the pedestrian is deflected to one side without secondary impact of the upper body with the vehicle front? Alternatively, the transverse velocity of the pedestrian at impact may be sufficient to prevent head contact as the body rotates sideways off the bonnet. And these situations are known as fender vault.
Not relevant.
The models presented here do not apply to fender vault. Did you leave that part out purposely?
Oh, yeah, I did, sir, because this isn't a frontal impact with a sedan over the fender of the hood of a sedan. This is with the back of an SUV, so it's completely different.
You've cited many, many sources where...
Did you take that out on purpose? Well, of course I did.
Talks about front-end collisions because that is the majority of pedestrian collisions in front end, isn't it?
The majority, it is, yes,
I
sir.
don't remember the fender vault, but maybe we did.
There is, that's correct, and that's why you see a center of mass. You look at the testing we did. That's a center of mass impact. On a frontal impact, usually, if you're hit by the front of a car, it doesn't usually get your center of mass. You're too tall. That's why you do a fender vault, or you flip onto the hood, or you flip over the top of the car. So yeah, it's completely different. It doesn't pertain to allegedly what occurred in this case.
So let me get back to my question. When the tests were done, E and F, F was a center of mass collision at 29 miles per hour, wasn't it?
That's correct, yes.
Right. E, are you considering E a center of mass collision?
Which was E, the
24 miles per hour?
No, it didn't hit the center of mass of the dummy, it just hit the arm.
Exactly. So there is a difference. In this case, you
okay, yeah, he probably brought up. Yeah, I can see that.
There's an impact.
Nobody knows. I don't think his arm was even impacted by the car, so no, I don't know the position of the arm.
I love it.
Arm at impact because it wasn't hit by the car.
You don't know the angle of Mr. O'Keefe's arm at impact, do you?
I don't know. There's an impact.
Nobody knows. I don't think his arm was even impacted by the car, so no, I don't know the position of the arm at impact because it wasn't hit by the car.
You don't know the angle of his body at impact, do you?
The alleged angle?
So ask the question again.
There it was. Wasn't even hit by a car.
Even hit by a car.
About the angle of Mr. O'Keefe's body at the time the defendant's Lexus was traveling backwards on January 29, 2022, do you?
We have no information that he was even hit by the Lexus. So there wouldn't be any information on the angle if his body wasn't hit.
When you talk about force equations,
He's done. Yeah. Rentschler is done. He's just like, I'm done. I'm not screwing around with you anymore. I'm just done.
You cited a number of pieces of literature, didn't you?
I did, yes.
When you cited the literature, you cited all literature regarding concentrated forces.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We went over the ham sandwich and how he laughed at Lolly's questions. Of course. Yeah. It's like, of course I laughed at Lolly's questions. Everybody laughed at Lolly's questions. Patty even put a shirt together laughing about Lolly's questions. Yeah. I made a shirt making fun of Lolly's questions. Oh, yeah. The ham sandwich bum.
No, that's not true.
There's a difference between concentrated and distributed force, isn't there?
Yeah, I talked about that on my direct, yes.
When you showed your slides, for example, the hand.
Yes.
Could we see slide 8, please?
Yes.
When you gave your opinions in this case, it was based on concentrated load, wasn't it?
No, sir.
When you gave your force equations, was that distributed load or concentrated load?
Well, that was the load at the center of
I
mass.
don't even know
So you
what
can
this is
evaluate
going
that.
to do. What is this going to do for the jury? What is talking about this at this point going
Distributed
to
load, you
do
look at
for the
acceleration,
jury?
you look at bending moment. So you can do both.
When you gave your charts and numbers, was that based on concentrated or distributed load?
No, that was based on the distributed load.
So this is just him like having some notes. He wrote down some notes about what he was going to ask. And now he's so flustered and he's so mad. This is actually like probably yeah, this does
To the
nothing.
center of mass.
He's already said, oh yeah, what did Patty? What did your shirt say? I think I might have it in the thing. If you send it to me, I can show them. Yeah, send me your shirt. Yeah, this is him just now. He's just bouncing now. All of a sudden, it's like distributed load over concentrated load.
Distributed across the entire arm. That's where it's the least amount of pressure. If we're talking about force over area, and that's what I evaluated in this case.
When you gave your
He doesn't
demonstration about the
understand.
hand with the different hexagons on it, do you remember that?
I do, yes, sir.
There's a difference between taking a small object and putting pressure on the body as opposed to a larger, wider object, isn't there?
Well, it depends on what it's contacting. And certainly not a difference when you look at the size of that impactor and the size of the knuckles and the metacarpal bones.
So, for example, if somebody took a book.
I don't know if I have. I might have.
It may or may not leave a mark. But if they use the same force and they took a high heel,
We
the
have
heel of a
to
high
go
heel and hit
back
somebody,
to
they
through
would
my
likely do more
messages,
damage
but
with the high heel than they would with the book. Isn't that fair to say?
Well, soft tissue, but if the force is the same, you would expect the
Ah.
fracture to occur. You have to look at the distribution. You have to look
Got
at the
it.
strength of the bone,
Okay.
and you have to look at the overall force that's being applied.
Now, you said in your differential
Goodbye.
diagnosis, you considered all evidence.
the shirt. Dun, dun, dun. All right, there it is. There's the front, and then there's the back. Oh, that's right. This was the Johnny. That was the Johnny Depp. Yeah, because the what if any's not a cure all. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know. I think no, that's a good point. He returned back to being a defense attorney, and he is on cross-examination here, but he's still just. I mean, he's tanking. He's tanking at this moment. I mean, this is just insane.
I don't believe I did. I believe I considered evidence for a biomechanical and accident
Okay,
reconstruction.
so here's the best part. Not the best part. Okay, this is one of the things I've been waiting for is when Hank starts just throwing out all this other stupid things that he's got the that he tried to like make stick, like the phone temperature, whatever. He gets actual pushback on this. I've been waiting for somebody to push back on when he starts just freaking out about all this other stuff. So
In this case,
So you didn't consider phone data.
it has nothing to do with biomechanics or accident reconstruction.
Did you consider text stream data?
I'm going to allow that.
I'll strike it. Did you consider Apple healthcare data?
No, sir.
I'm going to allow it.
Did you consider phone temperature, battery temperature data?
Temperature.
I'm going to allow it.
Has nothing to do with biomechanics, sir.
I'll ask again. Did you consider it?
I did not know.
You said it would be improper to ignore evidence. Are those your words?
For a biomechanical analysis, yes, sir.
Have you been to the scene of an accident before or a collision?
I have, yes.
Do you know what a debris field is?
Yes, sir.
And you've seen in your videos, E and F, there's debris fields after the collision and the taillight brakes, isn't there?
So first of all, there's debris in the yard. What that's from? Is there a collision? Was there a collision? Where did that come from? Where it was positioned? That's all conjecture and supposition. Those aren't actual facts, sir.
Can you hear my question about?
just giving it to him, giving it to him.
Debris field?
Yeah, and I think it's inappropriate.
Excuse me, sir. In a collision, have you seen debris fields?
I have, yes.
Have you seen debris fields where a tail?
All right, I want to go back to this because he started to really get back at him. I'm going to go to normal speed because
That's all conjecture and supposition. Those aren't actual facts, sir.
Can you hear my question about debris field? I'm asking.
Yeah, and I think it's inappropriate.
Excuse me, sir.
Oh, hey, 80K.
I have, yes.
What's
Have you seen
happening?
debris fields where a taillight is
Oh yeah, of
shattered?
course.
I have, yes.
In fact, in your video, yes or no, after the collision.
Hey.
There are debris
Oh,
fields.
the judge is
There
here.
are at a certain point, yes, sir, absolutely.
And so when you're looking at your studies, do you consider debris fields?
It depends on the evidence. It depends on how it was collected. It depends if it is accurate or reliable. But from a biomechanical standpoint, no, you don't need to look at the debris field or alleged debris field of a taillight cover. That has nothing to do with the injuries or the position or the movement of
Let
the
me
individual.
73, please.
Don't interrupt him. Object. Come on, Ellen. Fight for your witness.
Oh,
see
we're
that,
just
sir?
watching the destruction of a case. I mean,
I do.
Do you know what that is?
looks like possibly part of the taillight cover.
Right. Is that an alleged part of taillight cover, or do you think that's part of the taillight cover, sir?
I don't know specifically. It might be part of the actual taillight cover.
But when you studied this case and you looked at all the evidence and all these different things, did you look at these photos and see that alleged piece of taillight shard?
You know what that is? That is the deflectors, or not the deflectors. Oh, that is the piece that's inside. That's the two. Oh God. We talked about it so much, but that is like the piece that's inside the diffuser. Thank you. Oh, thank you guys. Diffuser. Thank you, Patty. Yeah. Happy birthday, Guy. I know that was so stupid, but yeah, this is the diffuser. This is the part that supposedly they had to get is an inch from the other taillight piece. That even at 29 miles an hour, the diffuser was still there in that test.
Recovered from the front yard area of 34th Fairview Road. Did you consider that?
Well, was that part of the one that was recovered by a leaf blower or not?
Oh, she's horrible.
When you were doing your ample study, sir.
Yes.
What I'm asking you is, when you were looking at all the available evidence, did you look at this photo of this alleged taillight shard on the front lawn of 34th Fairview Road? Were you aware of it?
No. Oh, I was aware that there was debris in the yard, but again, that has nothing to do with the biomechanical analysis. If you can't prove that the impact happened, then everything after that doesn't actually matter, does it? Because all that would be from something else. So unless you prove the core issue with this case, the contact, the post-impact movement, the head injury, without proving that, everything else is ancillary to what you're attempting to conclude.
Do you have any evidence in your biomechanical studies how this alleged piece of taillight shard ended up on the front lawn of 34th Fairview?
I don't know, sir. I didn't evaluate it.
Could have been planted, as far as I know.
76A, please. Did you see this photograph, sir?
Oh, I know.
Is that part of a red taillight shard or an alleged piece of a taillight shard?
It looks like it, yes.
Did you consider this in your biomechanical studies, that this taillight shard was found in front of 34th Fairview Road?
So can you give me a precise distance from where the body was found and where that was found with respect to Mr. O'Keefe, with respect to a reference point?
Did you consider this, sir?
There is none, so no, I did not consider that.
He's just done. He's so done. He's like, yeah, I mean, listen to that again.
Piece of a taillight shard?
It looks like it, yes.
Did you consider this in your biomechanical studies, that this taillight shard was found in front of 34th Fairview Road?
Can you give me a precise distance from where the body was found and where that was found with respect to Mr. O'Keefe, with respect to a reference point?
Did you consider this, sir?
Oh my God!
No, I did not consider that.
Do you know?
He laughed. He even snickered right there. He totally snickered right there. He's like, I didn't consider that.
How the taillight shard got there?
How it got there?
Yes.
That wasn't part of my analysis. There are certainly different possibilities of how that actually occurred.
Oh yeah, no, I've been waiting on this. Waiting on this, and it's like like I said, when Rentschler brought these guys in and yelled at them in that voir dire, and then treated him with the ham sandwich and all the accusations early in the testimony, he's done. He's just like, and his Wolf is a fairly young guy, right? So he's very respectful. Rentschler's just like, no, I am good at this. I am really good at this verbal jujitsu, as I call it. This he's testified way too many times. He's probably never seen a court case like this. And so he's just like, oh,
You know,
like, I'm going to give it to him.
It looks like part of the light assembly.
Mr. O'Keefe's hat.
Oh,
Did you look at the
hat.
photograph?
I see now, yes.
Did you know he was wearing a hat that night?
I did, yes.
And did you consider how that hat ended up on the ground in front of 34th Fairview?
No, sir, that was not part of my biomechanical analysis. There's a number of ways that end up in the yard.
Right.
There it is, right there. I've been saying that too. There is so many different ways that a hat, a shoe, everything could end up coming off or be in the yard. There's so many different possibilities. So
one of those ways being in a collision with a Lexus?
I suppose that's a possibility. Of course, someone could put it there. I mean, there's a number of different possibilities as to when or how a hat may appear in a yard.
Who do you think put it there?
Well, I have no idea. I haven't seen any evidence of how it got there. And frankly, it's immaterial.
Oh, yeah,
to
no, I
mechanical
think so.
analysis.
Do you have a theory you want to share with us about planting evidence? Is that what we're getting at, sir? By the way, the x-rays you looked at earlier, when's the first time you saw those?
I saw those when I was on the case initially.
I would think so, but this right here too. Jud Welcher testified they did not x-ray. He said that specifically, and we looked at that yesterday. Jud Welcher specifically said they did not x-ray the arm. There is no. When did you see those x-rays? When I initially got the case. So they've had those x-rays since 2024. And I think that's another, I mean, oh my God, this is so
By the way,
brilliant.
the x-rays you looked at earlier, when's the first time you saw those?
I saw those when we got the
Oh
when
my
I was on the
God.
case initially for the first trial.
No mention in the report about reviewing those.
Oh, is that why you thought you could get away with it?
That's how I actually word in every report I have. I just put generally that it refers to medical records and reports, which includes x-rays, MRIs.
Exhibit 74, please. Have you seen this photograph?
I have, yes.
In your studies or your testing, did you determine how Mr. O'Keefe's shoe ended up near the curb?
No, sir.
Exhibit 201A, please.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool.
Have you seen this photograph before?
I don't know that I have.
Have you ever seen any container that had tail light shards that matched the defendant's Lexus that were removed from his sweatshirt and his shirt? Have you ever seen any container holding those?
I haven't. Well, I believe there was evidence collected like that, but yes.
Right, I'll be right back.
201E, please. Have you seen this photo?
I believe I have seen that, yes.
Do you understand those are taillight shards matching the defendant's Lexus, the broken taillight?
Yes.
That were recovered from Mr.
Consistent with.
O'Keefe's sweater or shirt?
I'm going to allow that. Did you consider that?
I'll try. I'd rather try to reformat than come sidebar. Did you know that taillight shards were collected after Mr. O'Keefe's
Objection.
sweatshirt
Not evidence.
and t-shirt was scraped?
I'm going to allow that. Jurors, this will be brief.
Jurors, this will be brief.
Jurors,
Just because
yeah,
Mr. Jackson
exactly.
wants it, it will be brief. It's not an evidence. That's not what the testimony is. The testimony is it's plastic that's consistent with the.
Yep.
Detail of this case. Did you know that these pieces of plastic were removed or scraped from Mr. O'Keefe's clothes, specifically his sweatshirt and his t-shirt? Did you know that?
I was aware that samples were recovered, yes.
Were you aware that these samples were consistent with the broken taillight of Miss Reed's Lexus? Did you know that?
Yes.
Did you do any analysis how these broken taillight shards got into Mr. O'Keefe's clothes?
No, I did not. The first step involved with that would be to actually perform a biomechanical analysis to look at the movement of the body, how the body was positioned, where it ended up. So without that knowledge, you can't determine exactly how or if those types of shards were deposited there as the result of an actual impact.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, eventually, I mean, a wild animal is still going to stay wild sometimes. I mean, unless you like work with him you got to do hours and hours and hours. Get them there, and like every day, you can't miss a day.
I'll try again.
Okay. Objection. Word it differently. Start with a different one.
Yes, Your Honor. You see these pieces of broken plastic, don't you?
I do.
And you understand that these were found in scrapings of Mr. O'Keefe's clothes?
Objection asked and answered.
And you understand that these broken pieces of plastic are consistent with the taillight of Miss Reed's Lexus?
I do, yes.
In your studies and reenactments, did you make any determinations how
This is so
these pieces of
crazy.
broken plastic got into Mr. O'Keefe's clothes?
No, when you look at those studies, first you have to know how the incident occurred. Then you can look at that and determine, if you want to, how that may have occurred. Because otherwise, there's, again, different ways, different manners in which that may have been deposited on the sweatshirt. Without knowing how this happened, you can't just then look at other evidence and try and predict how it happened. You need the actual evidence to look at the event. This all goes to the event. You need contact with the arm, I guess, apparently, to actually cause this incident to occur. And without that evidence...
Oh my God! You see, slip that in there. You need contact with the arm. I guess apparently.
To actually look at the event. You can't just then look at other evidence and try and predict how it happened. You need the actual evidence to look at the event. This all goes to the event. You need contact with the arm, I guess, apparently, to actually cause this incident to occur. And without that evidence of any of that happening, knowing how the body moved, knowing how it was hit, knowing where it ended up, any conclusions drawn off of information like this is just supposition, because you don't know the movement of the body or the vehicle. It's putting the
Every time he's done this all through this trial where he's just run through this litany of stuff, like the drinking glass or the taillight pieces or the shoe, which we all know there are other ways for a shoe or a hat or something to be deposited somewhere, right? There's other ways for that to happen. So for somebody finally to push back, this gives, because I know at least some of the jurors, when this was going on, were doing the same thing that we were out here going, what is this? What does this have to do with anything? What are you doing? Dr. Rentschler just gave the jury permission to he just validated those feelings for the jury, at least for some of them. I don't know how this is going to go. He validated that thought for the jury to say, okay, I can look at this. I don't have to look at these individual things. Instant wolf. Yes. No. Yeah. The wolf. I'm sending a wolf. That's all you had to say.
The cart before the horse.
I love that movie. Just got the cart before the horse.
Caused this incident to occur, and without that evidence of any of that happening, knowing how the body moved, knowing how it was hit, knowing where it ended up, any conclusions drawn off of information like this is just supposition, because you don't know the movement of the body or the vehicle. It's putting the cart before the horse.
You want to ask it again for like the 30th time?
Please.
Bringing you back to my question.
Do you understand this is
Go ahead, ask it again.
pieces of plastic consistent with the broken taillight of the defendant's car? Do you understand that?
I believe so, yes. Okay.
That's what I'm asking you. Do you understand
Well,
that?
that's what you're telling me then.
I don't want you to rely on me. If you didn't see them, it's okay.
I don't recall if I saw those or not.
Have you seen this picture?
I don't recall seeing it now.
Now looking at this photograph and seeing the broken pieces of plastic under a microscope with fibers near the plastic. Is that something you would want to consider in your analysis, performing your opinion whether or not it was a collision between Ms. Reed's car and Ms. Yorkie's?
Again, if you can't do a proper biomechanical analysis, then that evidence
This keeps
is not
asking
consistent. You can't
over and
determine
over
how it
and
occurred.
over
You can't
again.
say that that's consistent with it. You can't just look
Excellent. All right, I got to pause for a minute. Oh, again. Okay, again. Gotcha. I didn't catch the again there at first. Oh my God, we were talking about this. It just keeps coming up more and more. Like, it just keeps coming up more and more. It does. It's coming up at my work. It's coming up.
at certain evidence and not do a proper analysis. If you can't even tell
One of my coworkers hasn't seen it, and so I said, "You have to watch this
that
show."
an impact occurred,
Not
you
go
can't
watch
look at
it.
tertiary
So-
evidence and say, well, this proves that it occurred. In order to say from a biomechanical and accident reconstruction standpoint that an impact
Why does Hank keep doing this? Why does he keep doing this to himself? Why?
occurred and here's how it occurred, you have to understand the mechanics and the dynamics before. This could certainly support that finding and those conclusions, but by itself, I don't know of any methodology in any study or peer-reviewed article that says you can just look at alleged
Why?
evidence
Why
and
is
then
he
form an
doing
opinion as to
this?
whether an impact occurred.
Can you see with your eye that parts of those broken pieces of plastic are sharp?
They look sharp.
If you disagree, do you think they're not sharp?
I don't have an opinion.
They look sharp. Well, do you disagree? I mean, what even is
Broken
that?
pieces of plastic are sharp.
They look sharp.
If you disagree, do you think they're not sharp?
I don't have an
I
opinion.
just said they
as to
look
that, sir.
sharp.
I gotta watch that. I gotta watch that again. Yes.
Can you tell me whether you think those pieces of broken plastic are sharp?
I would allow that.
Particular
God.
attention to the larger one in the middle. That looks like a shark's tooth. Do you see
Yes.
that one?
Some of those appear sharp, could possibly cause a laceration, sure, as opposed to an abrasion.
Do you think that any of those could cause an abrasion?
I don't think that you could get a consistent level of superficial abrasions along the entire arm of minimal depth of
Why
less
is he
than half a
doing this to
millimeter
himself?
through impact with the glass. To have that minimal force on every part of the arm to only cause
All right.
the
So this,
possibility.
he just keeps beating himself in the head.
Got it
I
anyway.
mean,
Your attention.
so we're gonna go here.
In video E, the arm that is sticking straight out. If you determine that angle, Dr. Wolf.
Yes, well, we positioned it just so it would impact in the general area of what was shown in Dr. Welcher's paint test study, which apparently is irrelevant and doesn't show the alleged position of how the arm was at impact. But yes, we positioned it in that manner.
When you say we, did you have input on the positioning of that, or did Dr. Wolf do it?
Well, I had input into how we were going to position it. It would probably be both of us, I would say.
So you and Dr. Wolf chose to position the chose to position the arm straight out, correct?
In that test, we did, yes.
Is there a glass
cool.
in
Very
Randy's hand?
cool.
There's not, no.
A drinking glass, no?
No.
Catching them
Any
early, you
did you have a
can,
drinking glass
you can
in
get
Randy's
them
hand?
to,
We did not have a drinking glass in the dummy's hand. No.
And you see when the taillight is shattering, those red things falling down, what are those?
Those are part of the taillight.
Continue a little bit, please. So, did you count how many taillight pieces broke?
I've already been
We
over
didn't
this.
count the taillight pieces. We counted how many punctures or holes.
If
All
you
right,
conduct this
cool.
test and move the arm angle, not another test, this test, but you move the arm angle, do you expect that the brake would look different?
That the brake would look different?
Yes.
It could look a little different. I mean, certainly the brakes looked a little different in the test, but they were comparable to each other.
You do not know how John O'Keefe was standing that night, do you?
Well,
Don't know that he was standing.
No, I'm going to allow that.
You do not know how John O'Keefe was standing that night, do you?
if he was standing, if the impact occurred, then no, nobody knows how he would have been standing.
You would not know what his arm angle was, would you?
No.
You would not know the exact speed of any vehicle that hit him that night, would you?
Sustained.
The debris, the broken taillight, is that traveling in a consistent or a different direction?
What do you mean consistent or
Is it
different?
all going in the same direction or is it going in different directions?
No, there's some spread to the debris.
So the pieces don't all fall right in a pile with each other, do they?
They do not know.
Immediate area of his body, would they?
If the dummy fell right there, no, they would not be.
Now, the dummy can't fall because the dummy is on a forklift, correct?
It's suspended like a pendulum, correct?
And you see in your
So this just, I mean, yeah, we're just going to skip forwards because this is just so stupid.
That's the rotation of Randy. And again, as you said, that's not a normal person because there's no normal force acting on the dummy. We just have it barely touching. So a normal individual, you aren't going to twist to that extent because this is a dummy which is suspended with just a little contact on
And
it.
after being contacted by a vehicle enough to break the light, could it cause a person to stagger backwards?
I mean, you're making some suppositions here. There's no evidence that would occur in this case. And not if you're spinning like that. You're not going to stagger backwards. First, you're going to spin if you get hit with your arm, as I described in my direct. But
after being hit.
I'm going to allow that.
What do you mean you'd be spinning? So what direction is backwards?
Could a person get their foot caught on a curb, and sneaker come off, and then stagger backwards and fall on their head?
A snort.
I'm going to allow
it.
Doctor?
Can you answer that?
I mean, I guess you could somehow predict or have a possibility of almost anything happening. You could say someone could get hit by a car and do a couple of somersaults into the yard. I mean, there's no evidence of that. So it's just supposition, but I won't say it's impossible.
Oh,
No,
my God.
I don't think he even got hit by the car, sir. Yeah. No, there's no evidence of what he did.
Okay.
Oh.
No, I don't think he was even hit by a car. How many times can you say that
All
in one
right.
cross?
Okay, I go. Let's see. Do-do-do. There we go. There's the little booger. Oh, what a cutie! Damn it. Ah. There's the little guy. Yep. No, I mean, if he's going to a rehab place, it's probably good. Yeah, no, he did not beat. None of the witnesses that have been treated have been.
Oh, a couple somersaults
None
into
of
the yard
them-
as not impossible is way.
So okay,
easy.
so now last thing.
O'Keefe's nose, the left side of his nostril?
I do.
In your analysis of whether there was a collision with the defendant's Lexus, did you consider
So
or
now we
know
get into the
that
nose.
there was evidence that a piece of glass or a piece of broken plastic was pulled
Oh,
from Mr. O'Keefe's nose?
Mhm.
I'm going to allow that.
Poor kitties.
I'm going to allow that. So hold on. Let's get an answer, Dr. Rentschler. Your objection's noted, Mr. Jackson.
I was aware there was some piece of material allegedly pulled from the nose, yes.
Allegedly pulled from the nose?
Yes.
Okay. And that alleged piece of material, were you aware that it was perhaps a piece of glass or broken
Oh, yeah.
plastic?
Are you aware of that?
No good faith.
So hold on, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Brennan.
I can reword it.
Okay.
You're welcome. Are you aware of that object that was pulled from Mr. O'Keefe's nose? What material that was?
I believe it was glass.
Did you want to know in your assessment about collision where that came from?
Well, I did evaluate that, and it's actually entirely inconsistent with coming from an impact with the vehicle.
It just didn't. It didn't happen. It didn't come from the vehicle. Like just keep
We have Exhibit 52A, please.
pounding away there, Brennan.
Did you know what that is, Doctor?
Oh, shoot. Okay. Hang on. All right. I'll get back to it here. Oh, you did. Okay. Shoot. All right. Sorry. I missed the first two. Do-do-do. That's a cute. Oh, that is super cute. Okay. Let me get to the next one. Oh, dang it. That is, oh. And yep, then that one. Those guys. That's so cute. That is super cute.
For me to see from here.
Well, thank you.
I believe that's the drinking glass.
A drinking glass. Do you know where that is in relation to where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
I believe it was found in the vicinity of where he was found.
It's going.
Can I have exhibit 195, please?
All right, so then we get to the drinking
in the street area.
Glass.
In front of 34 Fairview Road.
It's hard for me to tell from.
Does it look like a drinking straw?
Okay, the black.
Oh my God.
Nose.
Oh my God.
And that glass that fit the broken glass was found on the street. Did you consider all those things in your reconstruction analysis?
Well, my biomechanical analysis, I did consider especially the glass in the nose, yes, and whether that could have been as a result of the impact.
A result of what?
A result of the impact with the vehicle.
When did you find out about the glass from Mr. O'Keefe's nose? When did you learn that?
I don't recall specifically.
What was it before you came and testified last time, or was it before this time?
I honestly, I couldn't tell you. I know it was before this time. I don't know when I
don't know.
found out about it.
Weeks ago, months ago? Could you turn the lights on, please?
I have no idea, sir.
You don't know if it was weeks or month ago?
I don't remember with that specific piece of evidence when I found out about it.
What do you mean you remember it? Have you seen it before? Listened to something?
All right,
I believe so. Or was made
Medication certainly helped prepare to understand what was going on during the trial.
Now he's mad, so he circles back to the feds and what
interview or something
told him
that
here.
it was pulled from his nose.
Listen to something?
I believe so, or was made aware of it.
Just listen to something?
I believe so, or was made aware of it.
Now he circles back, right? He's got to circle back to the
examination. Whether you denied that receiving information certainly helped prepare to understand what was going on during the trial. Do you remember those questions?
With respect to the trace DNA, correct?
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
In this case, haven't you?
I have, yes, sir.
And you testified recently for a short bit in April, didn't you?
I did, yes.
On April 28, 2025, did you testify in this very courtroom?
I believe I did.
Under oath?
Yes, sir.
Like the oath you took today?
Yes. Or yes.
What did you say, sir?
They did inform me, yes, about testimony in situations and events that came forth in the trial that I was not aware of.
Those are your words?
Yes, sir.
Page 125, line 7. Here's your answer. You should need the answer. Were you asked, and by calling and raising issues and telling you information, even if you weren't requesting it, it helped prepare you for your trial testimony, didn't it? What did you swear?
I said it certainly helped prepare me to understand what was going on during the trial, yes.
Didn't say it helped him prepare. It said, oh my God, that was the worst cross. That was the worst cross of a witness that it's got to go down in history. This case has got to be taught in law schools. It's just going to be. It's going to be a case that people look at for years to come. This cross-examination of this witness is going to be in law schools because he basically just kept asking him a question over and over again that sank his own case. I mean, what in the world?
Nothing didn't land anything significant. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing significant landed here at all.
So AJ gets back up.
Is there
A
anything?
little bit of a redirect. So let's just watch that a little bit.
Provided information about the prior trial, correct?
Correct.
It's something about the FBI.
Associated with the defense team, correct?
That's correct. No one associated with you, and they provided information. And again, it let me know what was going on, but it didn't affect my preparation or my opinions. ARCA.
Okay. Wasn't them?
No.
It's a client, correct?
It was a client.
A completely separate entity that hired you for that one.
Yeah, because Brennan kept saying your employer. So he said, no, that was not the thing.
You were asked about a fender vault collision, and you said, well, this wasn't a fender vault, right?
Correct.
What is a fender vault?
A fender vault is when you're hit by the front of a car and you're moving across the car. So you're moving across the center towards the driver's side of the car, and the car hits you. You go up over the car and you fly over the fender to the driver's side of the car. So you vault over top of the fender.
Dr. Rentschler, where is my as I stand here, where's my center of mass?
Right about your belly button.
Right there.
Yes.
So what would happen if I was hit by a vehicle, front collision, and the vehicle struck me below my center of mass?
It's going to flip
So
Pieces of plastic that were claimed to
let
have
me
been
get
found
back
at
to the
34
piece
Fairview.
of plastic.
Piece of red plastic, correct?
That's correct, yes.
In your review of all the data in this case, do you know when those pieces of plastic got to 34 Fairview?
I do not. No.
Do you know how those pieces of plastic?
Oh yeah, no, I think so. I think that's maybe that. Oh,
Those pieces of
that's a
plastic.
good point. Since he represented Whitey, he does not like the FBI. You are correct there. I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. Holy crap!
Hank's mad now. They're scheming.
Yeah, he's mad.
That you were shown was found at the time John O'Keefe's body
Oh yeah,
was
no,
discovered
I love
and it was
Alaska.
initially searched.
It
That
is
correct,
good.
yes. I was aware of
It
that.
is great. It's a great place.
You indicated that the cut on Mr. O'Keefe's nose, the right side of his nose, was inconsistent with coming from a vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Can you describe why you came to that conclusion?
Well, if you're standing at the back corner of the vehicle and it
Love
strikes
this.
the arm, and let's be clear, if nobody wants to say where the arm was or how it was positioned, if they're claiming the lacerations are a result of the fractured taillight, it has to strike the arm. You have to be standing like this. The tree goes forward with the vehicle. So it's with your arm like this, it already passes by the person. And if there would be any contact whatsoever, it would be with the right side of the face. The shard can't come out and then make a right turn and then somehow embed itself on the left side of the nose. That's entirely inconsistent with the fracture and how the glass and the cover would actually move.
Oh my God.
Dr. Rentschler, you were asked a series of questions about a hat. Do you remember that?
I do.
About some shards of plastic material, biomechanical analysis, and your reconstruction in this incident.
It does not.
Why?
But because if there wasn't a collision, it wasn't that debris or those items weren't a result of that impact. You can explain how that got.
Then he just basically gets in there.
I do.
Yeah, I'm sustaining that. You know,
And
in your opinion,
you get to that ultimate issue.
were any of the injuries that you saw suffered by John O'Keefe consistent with having been struck by the subject Lexus?
No, they are not.
Do you hold that opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, so a little bit more from Brennan.
Mr. O'Keefe?
Yeah, could it have been a clip?
Could it have clipped Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes. Not hit him, but clip him.
Well, I don't believe that's consistent with the evidence and what occurred. I mean, someone can get clipped by a car, sure, but in this case, no, I don't believe the evidence indicates that's what occurred.
The glass. When you learned of the information of the glass in Mr. O'Keefe's nose,
Okay, so there's been a lot of speculation about this. So
What do you think it
let's let this play out.
glass was pulled from his nose.
I'll tell you exactly
I think it
what
was the
happened.
morning when his body was discovered.
January 29, 2022?
Yes, sir.
Somewhere around 6:15 a.m. Is that your understanding?
Sometime when his body was discovered, that's correct.
Do you know or understand that, did you see any evidence that Mr. O'Keefe had a drinking glass outside of 34 Fairview Road that morning after he got out of the
Slow this
Metroplex? Do
down.
you understand that?
What do you mean evidence?
Drinking glass. Do you hear anything about that in your review about?
What evidence would there be? Is there a video or a photograph, you mean, of him holding a drinking glass? Because otherwise there's a drinking glass there, but there's no evidence that he had it.
We have a clip, right? Okay.
So right there, you heard him. You heard him say, "This is what Hank wants to do." Hank wants to use Rentschler. So some people said, because he calls for a sidebar, he says, "I need a sidebar," right? And they go up the sidebar. And some people were saying he wants to have this testimony stricken or whatever. Hank just said, "You have the clip," right? What he wants to do is he wants to play the clip of Karen saying that he got out of the car with the drinking glass so he can get that clip into evidence, because none of these clips are actual evidence right now. They're just clips that he played throughout the trial. But they are not in evidence. If he could got those clips, and he tried it a couple other times. There were a couple other times. I don't remember exactly where right now. But right now on this, because he said there was no evidence that he had a drinking glass, he wanted to get her saying that he had a drinking glass into evidence.
What do you mean evidence?
That's exactly what that
Glass.
was
Do you
for.
hear anything about that in your review about?
What evidence would there be? Is there a video or a photograph, you mean, of him holding
there
a
a
drinking
video?
glass? Because otherwise there's a drinking glass there, but there's no evidence that he had it.
We have a clip, right? Okay.
You have the clip, right? And then he goes, okay.
Judge, can I come sidebar?
Okay.
Notice there's no, okay, we'll make it quick or hurry, because he asked for a sidebar. It's, fine. But when the defense asks for a sidebar, it's like, make it quick. You got to do something. There's always got to be a shitty comment in there. So crazy.
Well, I mean, I saw the area where he was blowing with the leaf blower.
Have you seen any information or evidence whatsoever that the pieces of taillight that were found after that search, have you seen any evidence that they were found in that exact area, or were they found in different areas on the lot?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't recall specifically.
So when there was a snowblower or a leaf blower
area,
in that area, there would not be a piece of plastic taillight to find if it was never there, would there be?
If it wasn't there, you wouldn't find it? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
Okay. Did you notice in the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, most of them are on the right side of his body?
Well, we have the abrasions and then a half centimeter abrasion. And then we have the laceration and scuff on the left side. And then the skull fracture, it's a little bit to the right, but it's mainly on the back of the head.
And the bruise on his knee?
That's the half centimeter. It's not a bruise, it's a half centimeter abrasion, about an eighth of an inch.
When you're conducting an investigation,
Bruise on his knee. Yeah, no, he didn't have a bruise.
do you add a little bit of common sense in the equation when you're considering the evidence?
Well, you can sit back or step back and look at whether what someone's claiming makes sense in the bigger picture.
So when you have common sense and you look at the big picture, it's not just physics. It's considering all of the evidence, right?
Well, it depends what you're looking at.
This is so
parts of it,
good.
biomechanical analysis, you look at the physics. It tells you what it is. I mean, if you don't like it and you don't think it
He
fits,
thinks he
well,
got this so
sorry,
good.
it is what it is. That's the science. So you have to step back. I mean, you can look at it the bigger picture if things make sense. If somebody was standing on the side of the road with their arm like this, while an SUV backed up at them and they didn't flinch or they didn't put their arm up, that's kind of the smell test bigger picture. That doesn't make sense. But the physics.
He just did it again. He just blew up his own case again.
You have to accept what science tells you.
You can't deny. That's the line you were laughing about in the documentary. It's one of your answers that you were all celebrating. Isn't it? Objection. Isn't it?
The objection sustained.
How'd that smell like break, sir? How'd it break that night?
I don't know. There's no evidence of how it broke.
Thank you for questions.
All right.
That's how he ends it. That's how he ends it. Oh my God.
You're all set, Dr. Rentschler.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All set, Dr. Rentschler. Okay, so here's what blew me away today. This is one second. Okay. All right. Big surprise. You don't know about it. Kat doesn't know about the surprise. Kat's here in the house listening to me. So we go through, they dismiss the jury for today. Hank Brennan made a huge fight. He had a huge fight to get Dr. Welcher to come back as a rebuttal witness. And so he thinks that, all right, so let's see. Let me find it. No, we can listen. Okay. So let me see if I can find it. We go back to.
All right, so I had a minute to look at the PowerPoint. Are you in agreement on the PowerPoint?
We're not. I do not want to
Okay.
substantive evidence. Side of the case that he was handling, the biomechanics side of the case that he was handling, so it'd be different. He said, I use the solo.
Let me find it.
The past introductions have been strategic defense instruction. We did that.
Keep going.
Is that it for today?
Your Honor, so after the defendant arrest, we will not be calling any witness.
Is that it for today? Will we see everybody just tomorrow?
Everybody still thinks that Welcher is coming back. Everybody thinks that because he fought, that Welcher was going to come back and testify, that they were going to have rebuttal witnesses.
You want to put in evidence, the videos, just the videos. Let me know that. And if need be, I'll hear you all on this tomorrow morning as well. Okay. All right. Is that it for today? Will we see everybody just tomorrow morning? What else?
Mr. Lesson needs to, I didn't need to interrupt. After the defendant arrest, we will not be calling any witness, putting on any further evidence.
Yep, there it is.
All right.
Your Honor, it's late in the day. We would like to review required finding not guilty on disposal of all evidence.
I don't Why? That's why. Why did he fight and fight and fight? So there's a couple of theories on this. I have a couple of theories on why we are not getting Jud back. After the defense rests, we will not be calling any witnesses or putting on any further evidence. So one, they didn't get the DNA in, but two, there's a couple of reasons why you wouldn't call Welcher back up. One is because he got completely crushed, right? He just got completely crushed over the last few days, and especially today. Like Wolf started it. Rentschler just completely, Rentschler just, he's done, right? So two, Rentschler said we've had the x-rays since the beginning of the trial, right? And then I think Welcher even said that he saw x-rays of like the torso and stuff. That would have been a huge thing to go after Welcher or the Commonwealth. Did you know there were x-rays of his arm and his hand? No. Or yes, did you get the x-rays? Did you not have the x-rays? Did you have all of the evidence, or did somebody hold back evidence from you? Three, the third possibility is it's like we said earlier, Hank fought and fought and fought and fought to keep Arca out. They said, we don't want Arca to testify at all. They can't testify. It's horrible for my case. They can't bring in this new evidence. They went out and they did all these new experiments. And so because they didn't turn over their text messages that they deleted, and because I think they're lying about what they actually did, but I can't prove they were lying. I just think they're lying. I don't want them to testify. They were able to testify. Then when Welcher went to try and rebut what their testing was, he couldn't, right? Like Welcher couldn't rebut what Arca did. He couldn't rebut what Arca said. He had no way of presenting anything to this jury that was going to be valid and that was going to undo anything that Arca and Dr. Lapasato and Dr. Russell has done over the past 3 days. Like the past 3 days. I mean, this is a completely different trial this time. This is a completely different case. This is a completely different, and it's got some of the same things that we had in the first trial, but oh my gosh, it's got so much more. It has got so much more. Yeah. I'd like to know if there is a lawyer that said Hank did good here. I just need to. I'm not trying to exclude Arca in his motion to exclude Arca. I know. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. All right, let's take a look at one more thing before I go get some food. This is today. This is Karen's statement after court. Ed Daniel from Austin 25.
He was terrific, as always. Honest and stood by his analysis and answered truthfully.
How do you feel ready for closing?
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Why 90 minutes? What can we expect to hear?
All the facts, all the truth, everything that went wrong with their case. They don't have any analysis and they don't have any facts to present through Dr. Welcher, so they're done.
What do you want the jury
you
to
said
know?
before you have butterflies at this stage. Are you
I do.
feeling those?
Yeah, of course.
You think your case is stronger this time?
I thought it was strong last year. It's stronger. Yes, we just called more witnesses and laid out more of the case.
How do you feel about the jury?
I feel good about the jury. Yeah, we selected them. I was there. I took part in it, and we chose fair and truthful, civic-minded citizens of Norfolk County.
What do you
so
want the jurors to know as they go get their instructions?
I just hope they were listening. That's all I can ask for. They were in the same room I was for the last, I don't know how many days that was, 33 days.
I know.
Given what we saw play out in the last trial regarding the verdict forms and what we now know that the jury found unanimously came to a conclusion, what are your concerns going into it this time around?
Obviously, after what happened in the first trial and what we heard from the jurors that came forward, we just have to have a keener eye on the verdict form and the jury instructions.
Okay, guys.
Last year.
Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Switch to the police investigation to focus
No more questions, guys.
She is. She's very, very well spoken. I mean, she's taking part in her defense. She's a big part of her own defense. I mean, she goes up she goes up on sidebars. She's finding evidence when they need evidence. I mean, she's a smart person. She was a college professor. She was in finance. I mean, she's got some really good intelligence. So that's it. I mean, we're done with testimony. We've got a charge conference tomorrow, which we'll cover tomorrow night. We got closing arguments on Friday, which we'll cover on Friday. And the jury will have this case on Friday morning, because if they're only getting it an hour, they're going to start at 9, I think. I mean, who knows? Bev might let them start at 10 or something, because, she's got to get her beauty sleep. But, oh yes. Yeah. That whole thing. I mean, this is like the trial for him supposedly, breaking his restraining order against what's her name? I mean, the people that have the sideshow people that have come from this trial there's nothing like it. In fact, I have a whole entire, see if I can find it. So these are my bookmarks in X, and you'll see I have a bookmark thing called Sideshow Clowns, where, and so Microdots is not a clown, but this was something that I think he was talking about. We got people like Grant, this salty sterno person, more Grant. Then you got this yellow cottage tails guys. Oh my God, this guy is these people are so weird. Like, they come up with all these weird facts. And so I don't know. It's just this case has introduced us to not only Karen Reed and those folks, it's introduced us to a whole nother, I don't know, somebody you could seriously write a comedy about this whole thing. Plevin. Yes, I know Plevin. And Grant has got and it's his mom is the one that started the Duke lacrosse scandal, fake assault thing. Wendy Murphy is Grant's mom, and she started the whole Duke lacrosse thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's no, I mean, he's just, I don't know. He yeah, Grant is just, I mean, he's a weirdo. Oh my God, that guy is weird. Like he just gives off crazy vibes, but well, cool. Well, everybody, thank you. Thanks for hanging out tonight, making the chat just run. I appreciate it. We're kicking along. Pretty soon we will be back to editing the show. That the whole reason this channel exists is for a show I've created, and I filmed the first couple episodes. So like a pilot, I 2 years, and I've finally got a pilot together for my show, which will be released on July 4th. So the first episode, first little mini episode, I don't even know what to call them, but that'll be coming out on July 4th. It's a fun little show making fun of the government. Why can't we make fun of the government? We can. That's the fun thing. So, and all their stupid misinformation stuff. And so, yeah, I will, I think I'll roll the whole, let's roll the trailer. So I did a trailer for it, and we will roll that going out there. So, and we'll be back tomorrow. So come on back. J Ray, appreciate it. Katie K, good to see you. Patty, of course, as always. And Mom, if you're still out there, I love you. She might be in bed because it's like, it is late her time. So she might be asleep right now, but if not, love you, Mom. I'll talk to you soon. And yes, I will see all of you hopefully tomorrow. Come on back tomorrow. We'll go through oh yeah, no, I got that. I got that you were talking about Kevin. No, I mean, yeah, he's interesting at least. At least he's a little interesting. Grant's like a weirdo. So, oh, there she is. Hello. Hi, Mama. All right, guys. Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. All right. Well, let's get after it tomorrow night and appreciate everybody. So, yep. Enjoy the outro. Enjoy the trailer for the show. And I'll see you guys later.
Let me get this straight. You blew up a building.
2 CIs and the CEO of 22andU.
Two competing federal agencies with the same mission.
I don't understand why those Fed a-holes are so darn mean.
To protect the public from the scourge of dangerous misinformation.
You know those bum idiots. This is all them. We had a solid case.
The word entrapment, not even in their vocabulary.
The explosives we provided were fake.
Sworn to a duty to always tell the truth.
We have no indication at this time that this was a deliberate act.
We're all being transferred.
To where?
The only place currently with openings. Alaska.
Good morning.
Welcome to the office, huh?
And we got the retro feel. You know, the funny about federal buildings, they're all different, but they're still somehow all the same.
Oh, good morning, Jud Welcher. At the coffee station. We actually drew straws before he got here, and I won, so we get to work together.
Let's get started. Let's see if we can't stir something up.
Let's give it a minute. I like to warm up the truth muscles, a little coffee beforehand.
Well, what do you want to do first?
What do we have for a surveillance fan?
Oh, wow. I got a Ford Explorer. We don't have a surveillance van.
Do you put many cases here?
Cases?
Yeah. Cases. We're the tip of the spear when it comes to protecting American democracy.
You really believe this? You really believe that people posting crap online is going to cause our country to crumble?
I think the work that we do is important.
We don't have a surveillance van.
Me and some people got one. We've never needed one.
We need a surveillance van. We need a big case or a CI who can lead us to a big case.
What do you need the van for?
Surveillance.
CIs, or confidential informants, are the lifeblood of any good law enforcement agency. Public posts on social media are one of the best ways to find CIs. Agents would never use coercion or take things out of context to try and persuade someone to become a confidential informant.
New Taylor Swift single is absolute fire. I'm just seeing a lot of incendiary and violent language here.
Agents always need to be on their toes and ready to make snap decisions.
Is there anything I can do for you guys?
Actually, David, there is something you can do for us.
Chicky nuggies.
Chicky nuggies?
What?
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. McDonald's cheeseburger.
Burger King.
Burger King cheeseburger.
Flame broiled.
Chicky nuggies.
Oh, baby, know you're gonna like it. I wanna be your beaver pilot. Said, honey, know you're gonna like it. I wanna be.
Awesome, right?
Is this a loner?
This thing's totally legit.
What is this? It's